Hello, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is 6:32 p.m. This meeting is being recorded by City Council and GCTV 9. If other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Roll call of members, please. Clerk Scott.
Thank you, President Bottomley. Councillor Golub?
Here.
Councillor Gordon?
Here.
Councillor Master Totoro? Councillor Bullock?
Here.
Vice President Gilmore?
Here.
Councillor Perry? Here. Councillor Wondolowski? Here. Councillor Healy is not present, and I don't see him online. Councillor Garrett?
Here.
Councillor Minhas? Councillor Minhas, you're on mute. He is online, but his microphone is on mute. Councillor Ricketts?
Present.
Hello.
Thank you, Councillor Minhas.
That was not me.
Councillor Toronzo?
I'm here.
Councillor Bottomley?
Here.
Sorry, President Bottomley. President Bottomley, you have a quorum. I will let you know if Councillor Healy logs in.
Thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance, which is voluntary.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. My sister gave it to me.
We have no minutes to approve. Actually, before we go there, let's do, if I could get someone to read on page 5, the suspension of the rules of procedure.
Page 6. Is it,
Take my phone out over here.
is it the one on page 6?
On page,
Page 5.
My 5 is blank.
Leave the, okay, press it.
Thank you. First I'll do 6. Nothing. The City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council waive the rules of procedure and order and disposition of business to allow agenda items to be taken out of order. Majority vote required.
need a second.
Second that.
Second.
Great, and this is to go to the motions and orders on number 10, number 1, so that we can meet with the city attorney from Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn about the open meeting law complaint. So is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Councillor Golub?
Yes.
Councillor Gordon?
Yes.
Councillor Master Totoro?
Yes.
Councillor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Councillor Perry?
Yes.
Councillor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Minhas?
They can't hear anything on Zoom.
Recording is on. It shouldn't be here. That's going to cause feedback. Councillor Minhas? Councillor Minhas, you're still muted. It should be much better now.
Hello?
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 Council.
Hello? Yes, I can hear you guys now.
Okay.
Yep.
Councilor
Councilor
Minhas, we're
Minhas, we're
voting
voting
on the motion that's on page 5 of the packet to waive the rules.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor
Councilor
Ricketts?
Ricketts?
What?
Yes or no?
Yes. Have to hold this letter up again.
Counselor
Councilor
Toronto?
Toronto?
Yes, 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 yes.
Welcome to the twilight zone.
President
President
Bottomley,
Bottomley,
would you like to vote?
Yes.
Well,
Well,
but that's
but
the
that's
only
the
way
only
they
way.
were able to hear. So. Yeah, I muted it.
If you mute the computer but not.
The computer is muted right now. Now
Now
the city council is unmuted, and we're getting the feedback.
Yeah, sound with echo now, still no video.
Microphone there, same system. Same system. Okay, thank you. I'm muted here.
Counselor Minhas, can you hear us?
I can now. I just heard that.
Okay. Is there a lot of feedback going on still, or are we better?
Right now, no.
Okay.
Right now it's good.
Okay. Thank you. President Bottomley, the motion passes.
So we'll switch down to the motions, orders, and resolutions, and I'm inviting Layla Taylor from Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn to speak to us about the open meeting law complaint. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. So the open meeting law complaint was filed on February 7th, 2024. The basis for the complaint is that the complainant believes the executive session held on January 17th was for an impermissible purpose. It's a fairly long complaint, but to summarize, they're alleging that the purpose was impermissible to discuss an individual and litigation. In particular, in the complaint, they cited to Buchanan versus High, an executive session without proper notice to the public. Yep. Can you hear it now? Okay, perfect. I did review the materials that were discussed at executive session, and I do believe that there may have been some imprecision in the motion that was made that led to confusion about the purpose for executive session, but the executive session itself does not appear to have been held in violation of the open meeting law. Specifically, and I just to sort of give you some background, the open meeting law requires executive session minutes to be reviewed on a periodic basis to determine if they're right for release, in whole or in part. And you can do that in one of two ways. You can go into an executive session, right? You can't release them before you figure out as a body whether they're ripe for release. And the way you do that is by going into executive session. The open meeting law allows two ways to do that, right? You can either repost under those same purposes that the original meetings were held in executive session, which is what happened in this case. It was posted on the agenda under Purpose 1 and Purpose 3. Or you can go into executive session under Purpose 7, which is rarely used for very much, except to review things like executive session minutes. Here you had executive session minutes from 2017 all the way to 2023. It was a bunch of stuff that hadn't been released yet. You went into executive session. Like I said, it was posted properly on the agenda. I think what happened with the motion is that Purpose 1, which usually is to discuss an individual, for the purposes of discussing complaints against an individual or potential discipline, but not professional competence. When you read that purpose as it's written in the statute, which was what happened in the motion, it's very long. it's very long, as is Purpose 3, which is about litigation, collective bargaining, those kinds of things. So the motion that was made on the floor cited both of those purposes, gave a recitation of the entire purpose as written in the statutes, those purposes 1 and 3, and then said, and to review executive session minutes. So I think legitimately a person who was hearing that, motion being made might be thinking, oh, are they going in for Purpose 1 and Purpose 3 and to review executive session minutes, right? Instead of realizing that it was for Purposes 1 and 3 in order to review the executive session minutes. So I think in the future, although technically I think it was fine, it was a fine motion, it could lead to some confusion. So there are ways to tighten that up. So it's a little bit more clear when motions are made. But as a practical matter, when you went into executive session, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. You reviewed all those many sets of minutes to determine whether they were exempt, were still exempt from release in whole or in part, and you made decisions based on them under the recommendation of your attorneys. Most of them were not released because they were attorney-client privileged. There were a few things that were still ongoing litigation. There were, it's many years, and so most of the litigation, thankfully, has resolved, but not all of it had. And there were a few other privacy exemptions, things like that, that were noted. But what I'm asking for tonight is to be able to put that in a reply on behalf of the City Council. I'm very confident. I've done a lot of open meeting law responses and worked with the AGO's office on this stuff. I feel confident that you followed the law. And if it did get appealed, I'm confident that if the Attorney General did an in-camera inspection, they'd agree that you held it for a lawful purpose. I don't know if you have any questions.
Oh, yes, Councilor Gilmore.
You mentioned Reason 7. Could you tell us what Reason 7 is?
Oh, I don't have my phone. Reason 7, it essentially allows a public body to go into executive session to review matters like under a statute, for example, right? And so in this particular case, executive session minutes have to be reviewed, and that purpose provides the language. It's been interpreted by the Division of Open Government to provide the language to allow you to go into it. There's some other things that it allows for too. I just don't have the text in front of me. I apologize. So I don't want to misstate other things you might be allowed to use that purpose for as well. Yep.
The complainant also talked about the person didn't feel like there was a lot of discussion before we went into executive session, that just kind of happened. Is that a legitimate complaint, or legitimate, that, there was, no one said, what are we doing, or no one
It
said?
could be in some circumstances, when typically there's not much discussion before moving into an executive session to review executive session minutes. It's not as though, there needs to be a declaration that, that having the meeting in open session would be problematic, like some of the other purposes under the law where you have to make a declaration. But I think because of the length of that motion, maybe not having that discussion, like that's the kind of thing that might lead to a little bit of confusion. So it was understandable for sure why somebody might go, what the heck did they go in for? The agenda, I will say, was fine in terms of how it was noted. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Okay. I will add one thing. It was, I think, the first meeting of this particular body, right?
Yes, and that was my, my first meeting, which I definitely think I could have been clearer and made that. I was trying to follow the letter of the law, which was very
Exactly.
long.
Exactly. So what I would say about that is good to make these missteps now and figure it out as a body than, be 3 years into it and not know it. Yeah.
I think what happens is some of us go into panic mode because we're so afraid about what does this mean, and we can't discuss anything in public, or we're gonna, and you're kind of saying you can talk about it a little bit as long as you're not violating the law of.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say we did discuss cleaning up our process so that there's also no mistake. If we're going to discuss litigation, that litigation will be listed, as well as the docket number, the court case going forward. So if we are discussing it, it's going to show up on the agenda for sure. So that will also hopefully help eliminate some concerns. Any more discussion? Yes, Councilor Garrett.
I don't know if this has been said, but I believe a welcome to the city is in order. So it's nice to meet you, and thank you for the work you're doing on behalf of us.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you all tonight as well.
Excellent. I think we'll move on to the motion on page 9, if I could have someone read that.
I think our pages are off, maybe because this got added to at the last minute.
Okay, so maybe they're off by it's
Okay.
page 10.
I have something on 9.
It's order number 24095.
The city council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council vote to authorize Sullivan, Hayes and Quinn LLC to file a response to the open meeting law violation complaint received by the city clerk's office on February 7th, 2024 from Mark Odato. Majority vote required.
Second.
There is a typo in there if it matters. Open has a D at the end.
Discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call vote?
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Mastrototoro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy, Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. So we'll move back to the regular agenda, and we'll go to communications from Superintendent of Schools and School Committee. And while they're coming up, I just wanted to say a quick thank you, because we had an election this last month, and the clerk's office did an amazing job, and they do tremendous work on this. That's Tammy Marcial, Jack Quinns, and Kathy Scott. So I thought that was important. Thank you. Superintendent DeBarge, welcome.
Good evening, thank you. The chair of the school committee had a conflict, wasn't able to join me this evening. So I have three things I wanted to share. The first, I think most important, is that we are still doing kindergarten registration. So anyone out there who has a student who will be 5 by September 1st, please contact the superintendent's office. We very much would like to get everybody registered so that all of our incoming kindergartners can be screened on our district screening day of April 12th. And information has been in the recorder and is available on the website. So that's a big push for registration. We also approved next year's school calendar. It generally mirrors this year's, adjusted for actual dates, of course. The most important part everyone would be interested in is, with no snow days, the last day of school next year will be June 12th. So and the last day of school right now is June 13th, so for this year. The very important things, obviously. And then the last piece of business, which I'm very excited to share, is that at the last week's school committee meeting, the school committee unanimously voted to approve a contract for a new assistant superintendent who will be joining us July 1st. Stephen Sullivan will be joining us. He was at the school committee meeting. He is a veteran school administrator, principal, assistant principal, and superintendent. So we are very pleased to have him joining us. As you probably know, I'm retiring, so when Karen Patnode takes over as the superintendent for July 1st, he will be taking her place. So we're making some good steps to get all of our transitioning done early in the year so that it can start strong July 1.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the superintendent? Counselor Gilmore.
I just wanted to thank you for everything that you've done. I know this has not been like the most, easy community to work with at times. And congratulations, I'm jealous that you're retiring.
Thank you. I will say Greenfield has been a wonderful place for me to work. I've been very fortunate to have gotten this job, and there are a lot of things I will miss, but I'm very much looking forward to spending more time with my family. So they may send me back by July 2nd, but I'm going to be there with them on July 1st.
But we're going to see you again before you leave, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the plan anyway, yes.
Any other questions from counselors? Yes, Counselor Garrett.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the decision to hire an assistant superintendent? I didn't have a chance to attend the school committee last week, and I know there's a lot of discussion. Obviously, everybody's got an opinion about what school funding should be used for.
Sure.
So the process kind of behind that, and again, I don't need you to recap the whole meeting, but just what's this person going to be doing?
Well, everything that Karen is currently doing, which is, the assistant superintendent was put back into the district in July of 2021. So Karen was appointed at that point. I joined the district in August. So we have multiple schools in status with DESE because of underperforming primarily with academics. We are making strides in improvement, but there's a lot of work to be done. And in a district where you need to change the trajectory of academic performance, Karen and I both recommended, and the school committee unanimously voted to fill that position. So a school committee member was appointed to be on the interview committee. That's how it's been done previous. The assistant superintendent is one of the positions that is appointed by the school committee. Most other administrative positions are hired by the superintendent. So Kate Martini sat as the school committee rep. We had principals, teachers that participated along with Karen and I. We had multiple interviews that went down to 2 semifinalists, I'll say. And then after Karen and two of our principals did some more extensive one-on-three conversations, the position was offered to Steve Sullivan. So I don't know how you turn around a district that requires academic turnaround without the ability to focus on academics and the work that needs to be done that I see on a day-to-day basis. I can assure you that there is no way one central office administrator could make sure all of that gets done and done at the level that it needs to be done. There's no way. Sure.
Counselor Master Totaro?
Hi, thanks for
Hi,
being
sure.
here. Couldn't a curriculum coordinator do that job for substantially less money?
Not the job Karen's doing, not in any way. And I think that at this point, the school committee has made the appointment. So, you know, we have Stephen joining us July 1st. So that's the organization of the district at this point, based on what the school committee has decided to move forward with.
The other part of that would be, had it been specifically a curriculum coordinator, could have been hired under the superintendent as opposed to the school committee. So we're locked in, essentially.
Well, and I think it's probably fair to say you and I may have different perspectives on this position.
That's fine, yep.
I'm quite pleased, and I think that the role is exactly where it should be. And I had no concern about the role of the school committee needing to finalize the appointment. I think it was great to have Kate Martini as part of the interview committee, and I believe we are appropriately represented at central office with this position.
Just one or two other things. So all three of my adult children attended Greenfield Public Schools.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest graduated in 2010, I think. My two youngest went through the Core Knowledge program at Green River School, which was introduced by Buzz Nemberkov. At that time, we had a substantially larger student body than we do now. The school functioned, kids went on to be successful with one superintendent, one assistant principal in the high school, only one assistant principal at the middle school. Now we have two superintendents, a principal at the high school, two assistant principals at the high school, a principal at the middle school, and two assistant principals at the middle school. That's a pretty big nut to crack for the taxpayers in town.
I can only share with you, I believe that we are appropriately staffed, and the school committee elected to move forward with replacing Karen as assistant superintendent. So, I mean, I respect your opinion. I just think we have different perspectives.
That's okay.
It is, yeah.
I'm on the Ways and Means Committee.
I'm sure that you will make a good decision for the students of Greenfield, as will the school committee.
Thank you.
Counselor Bullock?
Yeah, there's one question that I have for you, which is that I think, I'm wondering if next meeting, we could potentially meet the assistant superintendent. And then also potentially if we could be sent information on just maybe the job description, roles, responsibilities, and expectation of this position, that might be helpful to myself and other counselors in understanding why this position is necessary. And I say that because I haven't loved the vibe that's been happening of hot seat when department heads come to us over the last few months. So I don't expect you to share any of that information now, but if it could be sent to us, maybe that's helpful. And I think I'm just going to share, as someone who's maybe not had the most favorable opinions over the last week, I'll just continue in that vibe that I actually think it's really important for us to have appropriate leadership positions within the school. As someone with kids who are in the public school right now, I have an 11th grader. We've felt the sort of lack of culture and cohesion and operations that have ebbed and flowed over the years of her being there. And I think leadership positions are what's supposed to hold some of that culture, process, operational inner workings. And since you've been here, I've seen some of that come back. The level of communication, the level of unified curriculum across the school district, those type of things that were wildly different over the last couple of years when my older one was in like middle school and elementary school. So I think the last thing I'll just say is that I've been like grappling with this in my time as a city councilor, and I'm like halfway through, and so maybe I have a different opinion than when I started. But I don't know if it's our responsibility to like grill department heads when they make departmental decisions when our role is something different. And so I just want to say that I appreciate you making a decision for your department that you think is in the best interest of the schools.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Superintendent? I just wanted to comment. I wanted to thank all those that were involved with the Greenfield High School Drama Club, which has given their first show in 4 years this weekend. So please go.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
That's been in my parent update, which is on the website, so everybody can check out the information about the times and all of that. Thank you for mentioning that.
Great, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will move on to communications from the mayor, city officers, and employees.
Good evening, everyone. So I just have a couple of things. We have some announcements that you may have seen. We have 2 new department heads. Carol Collins is returning as Director of Energy and Sustainability. Feel very lucky to have her. And Michael Thoreau began this week as our new health director. He hails from Agawam, I think. He was the health director there for 12 years, recently working for the Department of Health in Vermont. And he has his work cut out for him there, but his started off working very hard. And as you saw tonight, we had Lila Taylor here from Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn, and so we've made a change in legal. We have Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn representing us now for both labor and all municipal things, so that's a little change. And I'm working very hard on our budget, which is pretty daunting right now as the revenues are flat and our expenses have increased dramatically. You'll hear more on that later. But we've had huge increases in the health insurance line and borrowings, and it's daunting. And on the library parking, I just want to give you a little update on that, and then you're going to hear on our 2 building projects that are going on. Signs were just put in the library parking lot today by our beloved DPW that say library parking only. Library, I think it says parking for library patrons only. And now we're hoping that everyone follows those signs, and we'll be working with Parking and Chief Dodge to make sure that happens. And so we have here tonight both Anna from the library and Chief Strahan from the fire department to give you updates on both of those. Do you have anything else before that?
I do, but this doesn't seem to be turning on.
We can use this one.
Okay.
Good evening, councilors. Nice to see everybody. I have just one quick announcement this evening. One of the things we started working on in January was working on ways to improve access and availability of City Hall, including improving the access of hours. So I just wanted to make a quick announcement tonight that to stay tuned for an announcement from the city on improved access and availability of City Hall. That will be coming out early next week, which will include increased access and hours. We think, as we all know, City Hall is in the customer service business and the people service business, so working on ways we can improve access, however incremental they might be, to improve the availability for residents and visitors to conduct routine business is important. So stay tuned for that early next week. I just wanted to make a quick announcement about that tonight. Thank you, and thanks for all you do.
I wonder, would you like to take questions before we move? So many questions for the mayor. Any councilors? I guess none. So we'll get the update from, don't know who would like to go next. Chief Strahan? On the fire station.
Sounds good. Good evening. For the councilors that don't know, I'm Bob Strand. I'm your Fire Chief and Emergency Management Director. It is an absolute pleasure to be here tonight and welcome all the new city councilors that I haven't had an opportunity to meet yet, and I'm sure we will as we go down the road. And it's great seeing the returning councilors. So without further ado, the firehouse project is moving right along. We ran into a couple issues that delayed the project. That is pretty much every project that's being built now, the same issues with electrical and some HVAC equipment. I'm happy to report that by the end of the month, the driveway will be paved. The flooring and the apparatus floor will be done. The bulk of the electrical work will be done. The switch gear shall be in by the end of the month and installed in mid-April. There are a couple outstanding issues that will not be within the next month or two, and that is, one of them is the backup generator. If the generator does not arrive, the power company or the electrical company that's providing that will have a temporary generator, so at their cost, and it will be swapped out when the main generator gets in. The other big item that is outstanding that we're not going to see for another 2 or 3 months is the chiller. The chiller, although it sounds like it's an air conditioning component, it's not. It's the part that controls the heat in the apparatus floor. We have radiant floor heat. The chiller system is a heat pump. It's called a chiller. I don't know why we don't just call it a heat pump, but it's called a chiller. And that chiller will not be delivered till about summertime, which is fine because we don't need the heat in the summertime. So outside of that, the project will be completely done in our hopes by the first to mid part of May. It is our hopes that we will be moving sometime in May, probably mid-May. The goal is, because we pay rent where we are, and that rent is paid up until July, the goal is for us to be about mid-May. That gives us 2 to 4 weeks to get everything we need out of the temporary structures and then turn the building back over to the leasing companies and have them take it by July. That's the goal. So we're working hard. We're working very hard on that goal. We're working closely with the mayor's office on that. It is a challenge, but I think we can get there. But that is what we're hoping to do, and I'll take any questions.
Councilors, any questions? Councilor Master Totaro?
Obviously, you need to switch gear to get a occupancy permit, but other than that, are there any loose ends that prevent that from happening, get a certificate of occupancy?
So other than the chiller, and that is the heat and like I said, the main switch gear is in. It came in this week, and then the install is going to be by the end of the month. The generator, we have, that's not going to be here until May.
Yeah, but you'll have
But
one.
we'll have a backup generator. So none that we're aware of. And we meet weekly to discuss this, and everybody seems pretty confident, other than those items that we're in good shape to occupy, hopefully in May.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. I will tell you, it is a beautiful building, and it's a beautiful building inside. And I am very, very excited to have open it up to the public so they can see their new firehouse. It's quite an accomplishment, and I can't wait till you folks get a chance to see it.
Councillor Garrett, you had a question?
Yeah, I had so congratulations, the building is beautiful, and thank you for your presentation so far. I had a question that came up from the EDC committee meeting. There was a proposed change on zoning basically around LED signs. And one of the predicates to it basically was that the fire department apparently had requested a sign. Could you speak to what that would look like, or if that's still something that's on your mind as far as the building itself? Just any information around that, I'd be curious.
Yeah, great question. So we are looking for an electronic signboard for the front of the firehouse. We would obviously, it's controllable, so you can dim it down at night if you need to. We can make it friendly for the neighborhood. But the real idea for that sign is to give out community messages from a fire prevention standpoint. So like when we change our clock, we change our batteries. That's a perfect message that we can put out on there. If we have a disaster in town where we need to direct people to relief efforts, if there's road closures, if there's a community event, if there's all kinds of different messages that the community could get out as you come up Main Street, you would see that sign. So if you go down Main Street now, during multiple times of the year, you'll see an orange electronic signboard that takes up 3 parking spaces and it sits in the middle of the road. That virtually takes that out and then adds tenfold the ability for messages on that. We had worked with some financing on that, and because of some challenges that we have, we've put that on hold for a little bit because we want to try to pursue some more grants before we go back to that funding. We have the ability through smaller grants to purchase it, but we'd have to finance it over 3 years, and there is a cost with that. And our finance department is concerned of that, so we're looking at other alternatives. But that is the goal. It's going to be multiple messages: emergency management messages, fire prevention messages, community messages, and then just general messages that may be appropriate to put up.
Thank you.
Councillor Bullock?
Do you happen to know if that sign falls within our current regulations for sizing and lighting, or would that be an exception to the current regulations?
So we went to planning board, and the short answer is, as the regulations sit now, no, it does
Okay.
not. We went to planning board, and they unanimously recommended that that was a good idea. And the language that's going to be coming before city council
Yep.
is to exempt the public-owned, buildings.
Yeah, so
City-owned buildings.
there was, I don't know if you watched our EDC meeting. It's an exciting one. There was a discussion there about there to be a desire for there to at least be written into that language some policy and procedure around how city buildings or the city wanting to put in an LED light or sign would be decided, so that we wouldn't end up with like another like we have on the common that's like always on, and so that there would be some measure of procedure, because I think most of us were in agreement that there was a desire for there to be messaging that's like emergent or urgent or safety issues, those types of things, that is visible and not taking up half the road like the drought sign did all summer long that year. So I don't know what'll happen tonight when we vote on that motion, but I think what would probably be helpful is if it doesn't, if it gets tabled or something, is to talk about like policy and procedure for city signage that is an LED light, because I think there's a desire to have it, but there's also a desire to not have more LED lights on all the time. That was the feedback that we got in the meeting.
Yeah, that's actually the concerns that I had when one of my lieutenants brought this project, and I felt that was a good idea. It was, and I think it's a worthwhile thing. I absolutely, from my standpoint as the fire chief, would work very closely with the mayor's office and you folks as well to develop a procedure or some type of method that would eliminate those concerns. Probably not get rid of them completely, but we did look into the first question I asked when we met with vendors with this: can we turn it down at night so the neighbors aren't, so you can still see it, but the neighbors, because we do have some residential neighbors and we want to be cognizant of that. We try very hard at the fire department to be good neighbors no matter where we're at, which is often hard to do when you have trucks running 24 hours a day. But we're aware of that, and you have my assurance as the fire chief, should you approve that tonight, and we do get successful and get grants for this, that we will work very closely to minimize the impact on that end of Main Street. Yep.
Councilor Toronto.
This is more of just a rhetorical, but how did you get your switchgear so fast?
Well, it's not
In comparison.
fast, because we actually ordered it before the first shovel went in the ground.
I know, but that's still a lot shorter than a lot of projects. That's
A lot of
great.
pressure.
That's wonderful.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Eversource is one of the components. They have to bring in their own transformer, and sometimes projects have seen delays. They've been fantastic. Everybody knows we're pleading the case, right? It's $35,000 to $50,000 a month right now. That, we're over about 6 months. Now, we have that built into the budget. But still, everybody knows that we're under a crunch. And to be honest with you, the firefighters have done a great job of being in the temporary. They're ready to move. They're ready to move, and we're excited for it. So my point is, everybody involved in the project, including some of the vendors and some of the people that are making this stuff happen, have really pushed an extra effort to try to get that done.
It's great.
And we appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great.
Any more questions? Oh, Councilor Wondolowski.
Excited about the new firehouse. Every time I drive by, I was like, is it ready yet?
So the short answer is absolutely.
No.
It's beautiful. It's a simple design. It's a square building, and it's built out of a square to keep the cost down. It's a simple design, but I can't wait till you get to see it. It is beautiful. It's beautiful outside. I think it fits nice where it is on Main Street. It's a good location for us. Our call volume has been everly increasing in the west part of town. It puts us a little bit closer to the west part of town. There's some challenges that we're going to have that we're working through, but overall, I can't wait till y'all see it. I'm humbled by the building and the support that the community has given its fire department. So thank you.
Great. So my question is back to the sign, kind of the orientation, because I also have concerns about distracted drivers trying to read signs, and we're trying to go by and see what the sign says, and because that is a part of town where you're coming up, just want to make sure that we're cognizant of how that could be dangerous.
We are. We're aware of that. We did talk to the vendors about that. We did ask other people that have that, other fire departments that have messaging signs like that, and they haven't seen any real big concerns about distracted drivers or anything like that with it. I think the benefit of the sign is something that's worthwhile because it can really get out really important messages. I don't want to get into the multiple capabilities, but one of them is if we have a amber alert or a silver alert, it will automatically put that up on that screen. And so as you're coming into town, if we're missing a child someplace, that doesn't even need somebody to enter it. It will automatically go up on the screen, getting an instant emergency message out. So.
Excellent. Counselor Perry, did you have a question? Oh, okay, yeah, it's hard to see you guys. Any questions for Chief Strahan? Excellent. Director Bugnolo, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to see a lot of familiar faces. I see many of you in the library, so nice to see you outside of the library as well. I'm Anna Boniolo, and I have participated in some city council meetings via Zoom, so nice to be here in person as well. I met with the mayor the other day, and she said, hey, why don't you come and give an update about the library? So I'm here, and the first thing I'd like to say is I'm very thankful to the mayor and to DPW for really cracking down on the parking lot situation. We are averaging close to 600 people a day coming to the library, some days higher than that, particularly on Saturdays. This past Saturday, we had almost 1,000 people between 10 and 2. We had a farmer's market day as well. And access to that parking lot is huge. And when it's full of people who are not actually in the library, that can create a lot of issues. So we've been working closely with the mayor's office and DPW sorting that out. And I'm very positive that now that the signs are in, and the signs say library parking only during library hours. So hopefully that is going to keep people understanding what that parking lot is for, and using it outside of library hours if they need to. With regard to the building, so I came in August, so I was not part of the construction project. I have bits and pieces, and my task as the new director was going forward with the new library. That being said, there was a lot that was still not completed when I came in, and I was getting a little confused about things, so back in November, I requested a building committee meeting to come together. There were also some very important things that were missing from the project. The two that I will highlight were our wayfinding, so signage in the library. That was completely absent from the plan. And when I asked why that happened, the response was, well, people know how to use a library. Well, that assumes that it's people who are library users who are coming in, and what we want is for people who maybe haven't used a library before to become our library users. And it's a huge building. It is not intuitive where to find things. During the building committee meeting, I presented a request for some additional FF&E, and one of those items was for wayfinding. And we're in the process of working with a design company to actually have wayfinding so people know where the bathrooms are and don't feel embarrassed to ask. People do get embarrassed. People know where the books are and don't have to be afraid to ask. These are things that we encounter every single day. So that is a work in progress. Similarly, we have no handicapped access bathrooms in the sense that a push button to open a bathroom door. And we have been, all of our doors to the bathrooms are ADA compliant. Meaning that they weigh under 5 pounds, so technically someone can push the door. But imagine someone who has a walker who's trying to push their walker and push a door that is 5 pounds. And we've had numerous people get caught and have to cry for help, knocking on the door to try to get out of the bathroom. And that is a problem for people's individual dignity. So in my additional FF&E, I requested that the designers, the architects, the building firm help us put at least one handicap access bathroom with a push button on each floor. So one on the first floor, one on the second floor. And they've come back with a design proposal, which I'm hoping to have a meeting next week with the kind of construction team to review how that's going. So those are works in progress. Apart from that, very recently, all of the HVAC issues that were outstanding, I have understood have been completed. We are having a few electrical issues with our hand dryers in the bathrooms. They keep blowing the fuse. That's a work in progress. I think the concern from the city, from DPW, is that before we get that certificate of occupancy, all of these kinks are worked out, because after this year it becomes DPW's issue. And so I am on that task and communicating every day, multiple times a day, with the different people involved with getting that done. So June is our deadline, and hopefully everything will be done. And the certificate of occupancy may come before that. I'm not quite clear on that. I think Mark Snow would be the person to have that update better than me. What else can I tell you? I guess I can just take some questions. Do people have questions for me about the library and what's going on?
Sure.
Oh, I think, actually, sorry, when Chief Strahan was talking about digital sign, we do have a digital sign outside that apparently was approved way back when. I've asked that question of Ellen Boyer and many people many times, and they said, yes, that was approved. We are waiting for the city IT department to help. There are a few things that city IT department has to help set up in the library, and we're in a line, like a waiting list. They have a lot to do, and there's only a few of them. So at some point, the digital sign will be turned on. It will be, like Chief Strahan was saying, there will be a plan, but if the city has a plan, that's even better, with rules and regulations to keep us all in line with each other. And we have our Zoom connectivity hooked up for hybrid options in our conference room. So at this point, that happened this past week. People can, if the rooms are booked all the time, I'm just going to say that. We are very, very busy. But there is an order of who gets first dibs. So city departments, the library, obviously, nonprofit organizations. But if there is interest, please get in touch with us as soon as you can so that we can see if the room is available. But we can only offer that Zoom hybrid option during our current opening hours. Eventually, we will have a system for after-hours access to the meeting rooms. That is, again, something that IT has to set up. The wiring is there. We just don't have the actual mechanism in place yet. But for now, we do have that Zoom option, Zoom room option during our regular opening hours. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Yes, and before we start that, I wanted to say that Councillor Bullock is our new representative on the Library Building Committee, which would, I don't know if they'll have any more meetings, but close to him. But thank you for stepping up.
We are going to have a meeting, definitely one more, once everything is done. So there would definitely be another meeting. When I said I have regular meetings, there's like a team of construction people. So it's me and someone from DA Sullivan, the project manager, and we have, like, every 2 weeks we have a meeting. Okay, what needs to be done? How many people are going to be in the library? Do they need ladders? Do we have to have patrons move out of rooms? Things like that. The nitty gritty, it's like Greek to me. I don't know all of the things about buildings, but I know when they need to come in and fix things. So I think we're very, very close to being done with that, which is really great.
Yes, do we have any questions? Councillor Bullock and then Perry.
I just wanted to ask, so everything that's outstanding is in excess of the original scope of work for the library plans, is that correct?
So the wayfinding and the handicap access, yes. And there was some additional, I'm not sure, of those of you who may not be familiar with the library, we have a children's room which serves age birth to 12, and then a teen room which is 12 to 20. What happened in that was our tweens got lost. and they're very unhappy. And there are a lot of middle schoolers running amok in the library every day. So one of the additional FF&E requests was to purchase some furniture and some kind of other materials, some gaming materials, puzzles, things like that, and take a corner of the children's area where the more junior level reading materials are located. That if you've been to the library, you'll see that there's a definite distinction between young children and the kind of budding tweens. So in that area where the budding tween materials are, we're going to carve out a little corner so that we can actually host the tweens. They're in a safe environment and not just running around the library. They run very fast. And actually, we've been offering programs for them as well, but they really feel like no one's paying attention to them. And if any of you are familiar with middle schoolers, that's like the worst feeling for them to have because they feel like they're not a child, but no one's treating them like a high schooler, right? And it's a hard age to be. So we really need to find a way to engage them. There are a lot of them in the library every day after school. And we're really happy to have them, but we want them to also, follow our behavioral code of conduct and feel like they're part of our community. So that was another of the additional requests, and we're slowly getting these things. The requests were approved by the former mayor and the current mayor. From the budget that was kind of left over from the project. And so there was the additional FF&E, so wayfinding and the handicap access, and then this kind of tween space. And then there are these few actual building construction issues. So apparently, one of the subcontractors was Zap Electric. I don't know if that name means anything to any of you, but they were the guys who did all of the electrical work. Well, the owner sold his business and went into another business. And there has been a question as to who's coming in and fixing all the things that were kind of left undone. So DA Sullivan has a new person, but that person doesn't have any of the paperwork? Information, because the other folks are, done. So it's kind of a problem that happens, I guess, but it's just getting those people up to speed with what needs to be done, and they're working on it.
Okay.
But I have to put a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah.
And DPW has been really helpful because they have concerns, and so they're like, come on, we need to know how this is going to be fixed.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to hear about the tween space. I have a not quite tween, but still he's fallen in that gap where there's like a lot of stuff other than the computer.
Yeah.
And when he's there and he's already checked out his books, it's like play on the computer and that's it. So I'm excited to see that there'll be a space. And as far as the building committee goes, I spoke with the mayor last month, I think it was now, and was just thinking through like what it must be like to be hired to like as a library department head, and then you're actually like project managing a building completion, which seems like a lot. So if there is help you need from the building committee, I think like lean on us. I'm happy to help. I like have a guy on the inside at DA Sullivan. I'm married to a superintendent there, full disclosure. So, I think just lean on us over these last few months if there's anything we can do to lighten the load and help get it done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I actually feel that they're very responsive when I reach out to them. It's just things move at a very slow pace. I kind of know that. It took me 9 months to get a very simple kitchen fix. So things in the construction world move slowly, but we're really close, and I'm really happy about that. And the building works pretty well. It's a beautiful, beautiful space, and the community loves it. And even those from outside of our community are pretty impressed by it. And we're so happy that our numbers are just off the charts. We knew it would be a great place. We just didn't know it would be that great. So.
Well, That's great to hear. Counselor Perry.
I just want to make sure you didn't misspeak. You didn't mean 6 to 10 or 60 to 100 people a day. You said 600 to 1,000 people a day, right?
Over 600.
Just wanna make
Average
sure-
600.
Just want to make sure we get that
Average
number
600.
straight.
It's about average 600. We have a door counter, thank God. Which went in, it started working, I think it was end of August, mid-August, so our August numbers are a bit skewed. But yes, and when we have something like a farmer's market or other events, it's very popular. It's very busy. It's really lovely to see. Thank you.
Counselor Golub, and then Gordon.
Hi, I first just want to start by thanking you for working on the accessibility of the building in so many different ways for elderly and disabled folks, for the tweens, for folks who are new library users. So thank you for prioritizing that. And my question, I think you already said it, but I just want to clarify. I've been working on an ordinance to expand remote participation for public meetings, and we met with Fernando back in January, and he said, you can't tell anyone yet, but they're about to have the room ready. And I just looked up the library hours. You said that the rooms are all full. That's amazing to hear, and certain groups will have first dibs. And I see that the library is open until 8 o'clock on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. So does that mean that a meeting room will be available with the Zoom access would be available for public meetings?
Yes.
That's great.
Yes, if there's not another meeting scheduled in there already. So, for example, the trustees meet the second Tuesday of every month from 5 to 6:30. The foundation meets, each of our library groups meets once a month. For other kind of nonprofit organizations, we're trying to limit people coming in and booking 12 months of meetings. So people can only book 3 months in advance, only 1 meeting per month. So organizations that have monthly meetings, so that we can limit that, so that we can let others have a chance to come in. Okay. But if you look at our policies, the meeting room policies on our website, you'll see that there's kind of a pecking order. We spell it out very clearly who gets, what our priority groups are for using those rooms. And we've had to turn a lot of people away.
I believe it.
So.
Yeah. So will that policy of 3 months in advance apply to?
I don't
city
believe that's
boards
going
and
to apply to
commissions?
the city departments.
Great, that's great.
City departments is a priority.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. But I know, for example, there's some committees that meet in the evenings, not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That would require that we pay a staff member to stay after hours to be there at this point. So we can't really offer that. That would be a huge expense to have people do that. So once that security system is set up, then we are able to allow after-hours access, and you would be trained on how to enter the building. You'd be given a passcode, from what I understand of how it's going to work. And we have actually a gate in the front of the library. No one sees it. It's hidden in the walls. It's like a metal grail, and it pulls out and it locks so that there is no access past that main entrance, past those meeting rooms and the restrooms. So that minimizes the need to have someone kind of monitoring who's in, who's out, things like that. So, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
One day at a time, and every day is a good day. Something happens every day, which is great.
Thank you.
Counselor Gordon.
Yeah, I just want to echo the congratulations and gratitude to you, first of all, for just creating such a welcoming and accessible community space. And I have a very simple newbie question, which is, what does FF&E stand for?
Oh, you would ask me that because I had to learn that too. Who knows what FF&E stands for? I can't remember right now. Is the mayor still here?
I can discern the meaning.
It's
but...
fixtures, furniture, furnishings, and equipment. Yes, thank you. I didn't know what that was.
Thank
I
you.
had to ask that. Remember when I said there's like Greek to me? Yeah, I'm getting a lot of lots of new acronyms, and libraries are actually the world of acronyms. So it's like municipal acronyms, I guess. Exactly. Yes, that is what it stands for. I should have written that down.
So the director's been up here quite a bit of time. Do we have any more? Are we good?
Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Moving on to another section of communication. This we have invited to the Director of Planning and Development, Amy Cahalane, and the Director of Planning, Eric Twarog, are both online to speak to a motion that we'll be taking up later in the meeting, hopefully voting on tonight. So I believe I'll start with Director Cahalane.
Hi, thanks so much for having me join the meeting, and I apologize I couldn't be there in person. My comments are relatively brief. What I wanted to say specifically is I actually am hesitant to endorse or get excited about any policy that will increase potential barriers to development, but I don't know that lowering the threshold to 2,000 trips is actually wildly unreasonable. I don't think that that change is going to be enough to stop developers or chain stores from exploring Greenfield as a potential development. And I'm not sure it's a significant economic development, and I appreciate that it received, I believe, a unanimous recommendation from the planning board. What I would want to say, though, is I think a potential deterrent that would do more to dissuade developers is that sometimes it seems like we're changing our mind a lot, and we're having these discussions and making these changes when new developments are proposed. So this amendment first came up when Aldi's was under discussion. Now it's back here when Starbucks is under consideration. And I think most important for attracting development to Greenfield is consistency and predictability. Those things in my mind are far more important than the difference between 3,000 or 2,000 as a traffic count threshold to trigger a major development review. So I just wanted to make that point. I'm happy to answer questions, but perhaps Director Twarog, I think, has some data to share as well.
Let's move on to Director Twarog, and then we'll move to questions.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Eric Twarog, and I'm your Director of Planning and Development. This May will be 17 years in Greenfield. So I was asked here to come here to speak a little bit about major development review regulations and the proposed zoning amendment to change the traffic threshold from 3,000 to 2,000. So I just want to give a little bit of history about MDR in Greenfield and throughout the Commonwealth in general. I'll start off with that, and later on I can take questions that you might have specifically about the proposed amendment. Based on a Mass Planners Listserv question, the Mass Planners Listserv is a listserv service that all planners in Massachusetts subscribe to, or most of them. So if somebody has a issue relative to zoning and planning, they can post the question on this Mass Planners Listserv, and then a whole bunch of responses come in, and it's a good way to get an idea of what other communities are doing when you're trying to do regulations or policies. So I did a Mass Planners Listserv question, asking the question of which communities in Massachusetts have major development review regulations or similar regulations. I did 2 inquiries this year in January, and I only got 7 responses out of 351 communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I will list those right now. The ones that responded were Georgetown, Great Barrington, Nantucket, Northampton, Randolph, Wellesley, and the city of Westfield. There are definitely likely additional communities with similar regulations or major development review regulations that did not respond to the Mass Planners Listserv question. But those that did respond, the most similar one was the town of Georgetown. Their regulations mirror ours. So I think somebody used the same initial language, and Greenfield used it, and Georgetown used it because they're very similar. They almost look identical. But the population of Georgetown is about half of that of Greenfield. So the point I'm trying to make in all this is that based on this Mass Planners Listserv question, there are very few communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that have major development review regulations in place. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the first year that the MDR was actually adopted in the city of Greenfield was in 1989, and the threshold for daily traffic was 500 at that time. Those regulations stayed in place with the thresholds all the way to 2006, and at that time, the city council replaced the MDR ordinance in its entirety with new thresholds. The threshold at that time went up to 1,500 vehicle trips per day in some districts and 1,000 in others. And then in 2019, the MDR regulations were amended again due to the library vote, and it raised the threshold for daily traffic, average daily traffic, to 3,000. So it went from 500, 1,500, 3,000. If you ask me the question of whether 2,000 is a reasonable number to go down to, I would say yes. That 2,000 is based on Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act. Their threshold for vehicle traffic is 2,000. So that number makes sense if you are a community that has regulations on major development review. I also wanted to echo Amy's comments that I agree with her 100%, that the most important thing in terms of development and economic development is consistency of the zoning ordinance. Regulations that change consistently in the community, or the regulations are not applied equally on a uniform basis over time, that can be a problem and scares developers away, or they don't want to come to your community. So very important. That is the most important thing, is consistency in how you do your review process and what your regulations are. The other thing I wanted to say that is between 2006 and 2019, there have been 6 projects approved under MDR by the Greenfield Planning Board. I can list those. One is the Greenfield Corporate Center. That was in 2008. 2009, it was the Franklin Regional Transit Center. 2010, it was the big box retail store off French King Highway. 2014, it was the Bay State Franklin Medical Center expansion. In 2015, it was the Substance Abuse Treatment Center at the former Lunt Silversmiths property. And then in 2018, it was 125 Mohawk Trail, which was going to be a hotel project that never got built. Between that time, 2006 and 2019, the Zoning Board of Appeals approved 4 projects under major development review. That was the Arbors, which is the assisted facility there at Meridian Street. The other one was the Winslow Apartments on Wells and Main Street. And the Ford Toyota dealership, that entire redo of the Ford and Toyota, that was under major development review. And finally, the former Wilson's department store, that was major development review. So between the planning board and the ZBA, there was 10 projects approved in the last 18 years. If the thresholds didn't get changed, increased to 3,000 in 2019, there would have been 2 additional projects that would have went under major development review, and that is the Aldi's that Amy mentioned, and also the Starbucks that's now currently going under site plan review before the planning board. The other thing I wanted to say is that the location of all these and the location of these stores, Starbucks, that is probably the most appropriate location that you can have for retail businesses in the city of Greenfield. We're at the crossroads of 91 and Route 2. Those are the 2 biggest thoroughfares in this region. So the general commercial district around the Rotary area, around those crossroads, is an appropriate location to concentrate development if you want to have a balanced tax base in your community between residential, industrial, and commercial uses. I'm here to answer any questions about this proposed zoning amendment or the other 5 that are before you this evening.
Questions from councilors? Councilor Gordon?
First, I want to say thank you to Director Kaling and Director Twarg for being here with us. I'm not going to try to look at the screen because that's a little awkward. But just curious, between 2006 and 2019, were there any projects that underwent MDR that were not approved?
No, every single project that has gone through MDR has been approved.
Thank you.
Councilor Wondolowski.
Just a quick question about when a MDR is triggered, what does that mean for the developer? So what pieces then go into place?
Yeah, so major development review is a way to get enhanced review for larger projects that might come into a community. So an example of a retail store, let's say it's 90,000 square feet or something, and it comes in. If it falls under major development review, even if it's a by right use that normally would go through site plan review, it now falls under a special permit. So it turns into a special permit application if the thresholds under MDR are reached or exceeded. So once you do reach the MDR thresholds, then the enhanced review happens. So they have to provide a fiscal impact statement of how their development is going to impact the community's infrastructure, like water and sewer, schools, or anything of that nature. Also an enhanced environmental review. But the biggest thing that we're talking about today is traffic. So under MDR, a full traffic study that looks at levels of service of all neighboring and intersections in the area of the development would have to be looked at and analyzed. That's not normally done under a traffic statement. Let's say that you don't reach the threshold of MDR and you're doing a retail store and it's under that traffic threshold. You still have to provide a traffic statement, but it's not a full detailed traffic study that factors in level of service of all the intersections in the area. That answers your question.
It does. I have one other question, which is when I look at the other communities, you know, they're kind of a mixture of some are looking at square footage, some are looking at traffic, and the one in Greenfield does both, and sort of pluses and minuses for square footage versus traffic as triggers for major development review. And your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so out of the 7 communities that did respond to the mass planners listserv question, I mentioned Georgetown has similar regulations. They have like the same thresholds that we do, the same type of thresholds. They have different numbers, but there are many things that trigger MDR in Greenfield. It's more than the size of a building or traffic threshold. There's also, if you have a 50 dwelling units or more, could be like an apartment complex, that would be required to go under MDR. If you are doing a subdivision that creates 50 or more lots, that also falls under MDR. And that's the same as Georgetown. Most of these other communities that responded, like Northampton or Great Barrington, they limit the size of stores. Like I think Northampton is 90,000 square feet is the limit. So you could never have a store bigger than that go under Northampton. But they're all different. But Greenfield and Georgetown are the only 2 that I could find that have multiple thresholds under MDR.
Councilor Garrett.
I just had a question about the specific projects you mentioned earlier that would have fallen under MDR, the Starbucks and the Aldis. In a world where this thing passes as it's before us right now, am I right in thinking that the Starbucks and the Aldis, since they're already going through, would just continue as they are under the current regulatory environment? Would they then become subject to MDR? Because I would love to hear clarification on that.
That's a good question, and the answer is easy. The Aldis it would be grandfathered. They've already gone and received their approval for site plan. The Starbucks is currently being reviewed and has not received approval yet, so they could fall under the new thresholds. Let me think about that. When you first post the zoning amendment, the date that it's first posted in the newspaper is the date that it's actually in effect until either voted down or up by city council. So whenever the first posting of this zoning amendment happened, that's when it's in effect. So if the Starbucks, I'd have to look at the dates. If they came in before that first posting of this notice of this zoning amendment, then they wouldn't fall under the new regulations. If in fact they submitted their site plan application after the first posting of this proposed zoning amendment, then they would fall under the new threshold.
I think I remember at the planning board meeting last month that they were going to continue it into April. So it seems like they wouldn't fall under, they wouldn't be grandfathered in, basically. It wouldn't be possible if we passed it now for them to not be subjected to it. Because I remember you mentioned they had 2,000 cars plus, right?
They have slightly over 2,000, so they would have fell under if the amendment passes of 2,000, they would have fall under that.
Okay.
But if they submitted their site plan application before the first posting of this, even though
I see. Okay. Thank you for the
even though it's
clarification.
continued, yeah, even though it's continued to April, they would still be exempt.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Oh, Councillor Bullock.
I have a question, and I have some information to share, which I will hold, but I just want to make sure that I'm going to be able to like give a report on the motion from EDC before it like gets called to question or something. And so I won't share that information now. If we're sure that's going to happen, I'll be able to give a report.
Yes, you will be able to give a report.
And then I have a question. So this question is for Eric. I've been reading a lot of the like DOT highway stuff because I inquired with Councillor Healy mentioned in EDC that there's going to be a redesign of the Rotary area. And he inquired to like get the plans. I wanted to see what was actually going to happen in that area. And there was a hearing. I didn't know it happened or I would have gone to it. But we haven't received that information yet. But so the map, like the state DOT review is triggered at 2,000. And they have other triggers too. Like there's like a number of parking spaces and things like that. But I'm wondering, is there a delineation between if like city and state roads? So say, like hypothetically speaking, if Starbucks hit the 2,000 threshold, doesn't it have to go through a major development review because its access is through state roads and not city roads?
That's a good question, and I did seek out the answer for myself. Because the Starbucks or the current Friendlies is off of Robbins Road, and that's where the access point is, no DOT access permit is required. If the Aldi's, their access to the new development that was approved is off Mohawk Trail, so they had to go through Mass DOT for an access permit, which includes a traffic study. And that's the reason that Starbucks did not, because they're actually not on a state road. Even though you have to drive over a state road to get to the town road, it still doesn't trigger their review.
Okay, that's helpful. So, but if they were to, which I did look at their site plan review and it didn't have this, but like if they were to cut in another driveway, which then exited them onto Mohawk Trail right there, then they would be their access would be through a state road, and so it would trigger the MDR for the state.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions from councilors? Seeing none, thank you both for attending tonight and answering those questions. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
We will next move on to public comment.
Like to file a grievance? It's our break time.
So public comment tonight, please state your name and address. Melody Goodwin? I think left. Yeah. Is that Ahmad Esfani? I'm going to say that wrong, terribly wrong, I'm sorry.
Is that good? Yes, my name's Ahmad Esfahani. I live at 44 East Cleveland Street in Greenfield. I'll be brief. I'm here tonight just to inform the city of Greenfield that I am seeking the nomination signatures necessary to run in the upcoming primary for District 2 as a Republican candidate for Congress. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Patty Williams.
Good evening. I've been trying to get to the seat for months now. I'm so glad I finally made it. So first of all, I want to thank you for your vote Monday night.
Oh, sorry, name and address.
147 Davis Street, next door, Greenfield, Mass. Okay, now, I'd like to thank you for your vote Monday night. It made me very proud to be a resident of Greenfield. Thank you. It's important that we stand up for humanitarian causes, no matter where they are. So I'm very proud of you all doing that vote for the ceasefire. Secondly, I'd like to encourage you. I understand there's going to be a vote later this evening regarding public comment in public meetings, and I think it's extremely important, since we're in the new era of hope in our town, that folks be allowed to give comment. Obviously, one would expect you to allot a time period on it because business has to get done, but it's important that people get to speak to their representatives. It's important for the representatives to hear what folks in town have to say. So I just want to encourage you to please vote to make that a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela Goodwin?
Pamela Goodwin, 54 High Street, apartment 307. I want to thank you for all your hard work, like I usually do. I especially want to thank you for taking extra time to sit in a Zoom at a special meeting. I found last month's meeting extremely stressful for me. I wanted to leave. I will also say that I have spoken to about 4 city councilors numerous times over the phone. I'm going to quote someone who called himself an activist on Monday night in the Zoom. He said, "You didn't sign up for this." And that's what I feel as well. You work really hard on city business. I feel that any social, national, or international issues do not belong at city council. They belong in a different venue. You can do petitions, you can have city meetings, you can do all kinds of things. And I didn't have a chance to speak my heart when 144 people were there. Out of those 144 people, minus the city councilors, I counted about 6 people that have ever even shown up in my 5 years to either attend a meeting. I probably missed a few who might show up on Zoom. But I would encourage people to take active participation. I also want to encourage, the mayor has asked for hybrid meetings. She also is, I believe, looking for a lot of transparency, as the previous speaker said. And I would like to think that we could have public comment at subcommittees as well as city council. And if it's going to be lack of respect, and if it's going to be annoying, and people are going to put pressure on people, I'm opposed to that. So hopefully we can still have public comment at the subcommittees. I watch many of them on YouTube if I don't go in person. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. We will move online to Ursa Scherer.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ursa Shear. I live at 63 Madison Circle and in Precinct 6. I wanted to express my deep gratitude and appreciation for Monday's special meeting and for the council passing the ceasefire resolution. Just continue to talk about it each morning on my way to bring my 8-year-old to school at Federal Street. And I'm just really proud to be in Greenfield as a part of this. I also want to express my support for the discussion coming up around public comment at committee meetings. I think that that's a valuable opportunity to engage with the public. And lastly, I just wanted to say happy birthday to Councilors Bullock and Ricketts, who share a joint birthday that was celebrated yesterday. That's it.
Thank you. Patty O'Neill.
Hello, my name is Patty O'Neill. I live in Precinct 1. I would also like to thank the councilors for passing the ceasefire resolution. I think it's really important to be able to discuss issues that go a little bit outside of our town, to reaffirm the direction that we want to go in as the city. And I know that that issue brought a lot of people out to get involved in local government for the first time, myself included, finally just reminding me that this is something that I've been meaning to do. And I think it's really important to note such what seems to me as like an extremely important issue over time to speak on. A couple things that were mentioned in this meeting earlier, the sign. I've been attending the master plan update meetings and the planning meetings. And at one of those community input meetings, there was desire for having community message boards. And as Councilor Garrett mentioned to me the other day, I think 20% of Greenfielders don't drive. And so having like neighborhood scale sorts of community, like centers for community engagement and awareness, like a message board, I think would be a good idea to consider if we're going to be considering message boards. And especially if that can allow neighbors to kind of engage with each other there, and just be able to think with continued community input, how to know what's going on in Greenfield. I've been trying to catch up, and it's a bit of a process for somebody who is even really engaged and wanting to know. Everything is very siloed. And then the last thing I just would like to mention about the development around Starbucks and McDonald's and Aldi's. If we are thinking about attracting developers and boosting economic development in Greenfield, I think it's important to know Starbucks and McDonald's are the subjects of boycotts right now for their human rights and labor practices, and Aldi's was also implicated in using prison labor for their products. And these are issues clearly that people care about and will continue to push locally. And instead of having a Miami-based developer come to Greenfield and we try to fit them in, I think it would be great to consider how we can.
I'm afraid your time is up. If you want to finish your thought.
Yeah, like maybe if we can try to see how we can develop local talent and think of worker co-ops and work with GCC and business incubators to create something that really works for Greenfield and engages the community and builds the resiliency that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Al Norman?
Thank you. Members, I'm Al Norman from Grinnell Street in Greenfield. I want to say, number one, thank you to the Greenfield Planning Board for voting unanimously 3 times since 2019 against raising the MDR traffic threshold to 3,000. Number 2, thanks to the Council's Economic Development Committee for voting 8 days ago, 4-1 in favor of lowering the MDR threshold to 2,000 car trips daily. Number 3, I want to thank the Massachusetts MEPA office, which requires projects generating 2,000 or more new average daily car trips on roadways, providing access to a single location to have an environmental review. Number 4, I want to thank the Greenfield Town Council, which 33 years ago created our MDR ordinance and set 500 daily car trips as the traffic threshold for a review, which stayed at 500 cars for 26 years. Talk about stability. Without rejecting, as you heard, without rejecting a single major development. So I don't want to think about MDR as being anti-business. Everything gets approved, they just get made into better projects. Number 5, I'd like to thank former City Councilor, EDC Chair, Ashley Stemple, who had the courage to ask City Council President Rudy Renault in 2019 why the traffic threshold in 2019 was being tripled to 3,000 daily car trips. And the President said, quote, "There was no evidence-based study behind that number." Number 6, thanks to whoever added the language in our site plan review zoning which allows planning boards to use outside consultants paid for by the applicant to review things like traffic studies. It's a great resource, but we never use it. 13 days ago, I sat in a planning board audience for the worst site plan review hearing I think I've ever heard from a private retail applicant. The planning board received the applicant's traffic study the very morning of the hearing. The applicant's traffic guy did not come to the planning board meeting. He did not appear on Zoom. He phoned into the meeting, barely audible, and provided peak hour traffic figures from the traffic engineer's manual that were 30 years old. And he made no reference to intersection level of service impacts anywhere. I realized that our site plan review process is actually a light plan review process, LITE, because it gathers no meaningful traffic data of any practical use. I hope to come back to you soon with the proposal to upgrade our site plan review traffic process so this never happens again. If the City Council wants to correct our MDR mistake from 2019, great. If you don't, I will return with a plan to improve our site plan regulations and give our planning board the tools it needs to do its due diligence. I've personally invited everyone in the council to email me to set up a time to review how our MDR and site plan review zoning can be approved, and I hope to hear from some of you soon. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. So that ends our public comment period. We have no public hearings and second readings, and I'm thinking it might be a good time, with the consent of the council, to take a 5-minute break. Excellent. We will adjourn and come back in 5 minutes.
Counselor Minhas, can you acknowledge that you are still attending the meeting? Oops, I don't want to do that. Counselor Minhas, are you there?
Hello, I can't seem to hear anything, but I don't know if you can hear my voice.
Wait. We are. Can you hear me now? Mute, unmute. Counselor Minhas, can you hear me now?
I can see that you're trying to speak, but I can't hear anything. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I don't want to unmute myself. That is not unmuted. That is good. So we're right here. I don't want to do that.
Okay, it started working for some reason.
Okay. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Beautiful. That's all we needed. Thank you.
Great. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions. We'll go to number 2, which is mayor's appointments. On page 15, this is Councilor Golub.
Order number fiscal year 24071. The City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council, pursuant to Charter Section 210, affirms the following appointments and reappointments by the mayor, all terms to expire December 31st, 2027. Greenfield Local Cultural Council, Joseph J.J. White. Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee, Marie-Francois Hatt. Commission on Disability Access, Louise Amiot. Human Rights Commission, Brian Chamberlain. Council on Aging, Noreen Grogan. Crossroads Cultural District Committee, Kate Brogan. And the Mayor's Task Force Against Domestic Violence, Janine Greaves, Mayor's appointee, and Amanda Sanderson. Majority vote required.
Second.
And this received a unanimous positive recommendation from the councilors present.
Excellent. I'll open this up for discussion.
I just
Councilor
wanted to
Gilmore?
know, I'm pretty sure Janine's last name is spelled Greaves.
That is
Am I
how it's
right?
spelled.
I think I'm right.
I think that's,
On the thing you passed out today, it's.
I'm just looking at it here.
Yeah, the agenda was.
Yeah.
I believe
I
it's
don't know if
correct.
that like nullifies the appointment if we're missing an E, but we should still spell it right. Okay.
Discussion on these appointments? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Master Totoro?
Yes.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Counselor Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo?
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
The next is amend rules of procedure. This is Councilor Golub.
Okay, I am going to read the language that is not striked out so that it makes sense to people. But as you read, you can see what has been striked out and what is current and additional language. Order number fiscal year 24073, the City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council votes to amend the City Council Rules of Procedure 56514, Rule 14, request by councilors for legal opinions and material, by adding language in bold and by deleting language in strike-through as follows. 56514, Rule 14, request by councilors for legal opinions and material. Amended 2/15/2023 by order number fiscal year 23107. A, definition. Request by councilors for legal opinions is defined as any request by a councilor for a legal opinion or material from any person that would incur an expense for the city of Greenfield. B, councilor's request. Any councilors wishing to receive an opinion or material that would incur an expense must submit in writing to the city council president and vice president detailed reasons for the request with the proposed scope of work for council. If the requesting councilor wishes to submit a suggestion for a legal counselor, they may submit the name along with the estimated cost. C, agreement or disagreement. Thank you. Agreement or disapproval. The city council president and vice president will have 20 calendar days to submit their agreement to proceed with seeking legal counsel or rejection of request in writing to the requested counselors. I just want to say it'd be easier if I had said attorney, but my apologies. If rejection is entered, or if the president and vice president could not reach a unanimous decision about whether to hire legal counsel, the counselors can appeal the decision by having said request placed on the next regular council meeting agenda for consideration by the full council. If a majority of the full council approves the measure, the counselors would proceed as outlined in subsection B. D, subsection of legal counsel. In the case of an approval of the request, the council president and vice president will select a legal counselor. If the council president and vice president cannot agree on a legal counselor, they will bring the selection of such counselor to the committee chairs for a vote. The council president will then seek a good faith estimate from the selected legal counselor with expected cost and possible expenses to be incurred. The estimate shall be obtained through the exercise of sound business practice. E, review of proposal. The city council president and vice president shall review the estimate and within 10 days submit their approval or rejection in writing to the city clerk. If the council president and vice president approve the proposal, the council president will forward the payment request along with the name and contact information of the chosen legal counselor and estimated cost invoice to the clerk of the council. If the council president and vice president reject the proposal, they may select another legal counselor, and the process in subsection D shall be followed as applicable. If counselors disagree with this decision, the process in subsection C may be followed. F, contracting legal opinions and materials. The clerk will send the legal counselor the request for the opinion or materials. Once opinion or material is received, it will be forwarded to the full council. Note to counselors, MGL Chapter 30B, subsection 4C states, a procurement in the amount of less than $10,000 shall be obtained through the exercise of sound business practices. Majority vote required.
Second.
Report from
Yes,
committee?
this received a unanimous positive recommendation, and I would be happy to share rationale for this. I concur with Councilor Ricketts that it would be, this is quite complicated, and if we could just say we select an attorney, it would be, it might feel a lot easier, and yet President Bottomley and I actually sat through this for quite a long time trying to figure out, like, actually thinking about hiring an attorney And these were changes that we realized were necessary. The history of this is that I was on A&O when we initially added $10,000 to our budget for the city council to be able to hire an attorney. But we haven't used those funds to my knowledge yet. And this language was created by Councilor Bullock, Councilor Gwynn, and myself, who were the members of A&O who came to the meetings. And but we hadn't actually implemented it yet. And when Councilor Bottomley and I thought about implementing it, we realized that these changes, I don't mean to speak for you, but we were needed and are now putting it forward. So that's the history as I recall it. Thank
Excellent,
you for listening
thank you,
to
and
all
thank you
of
for
that.
reading all of that. We'll open this up for discussion. Councilor Ricketts?
Yeah, I'm just going to vote yes on it so it can go away, and I don't think it's confusing. I think it's unnecessary and unnecessarily long, because nine times out of 10, we're just going to use legal counsel that we already have for the city. So I think we're all covered, but thanks for all the strike-throughs and the reading and everything, but yeah, I'm all set. Let's just get this off the table.
Councilor Bullock?
Yeah, I am also going to vote yes for this, and just for context, a little more context for new counselors, I think what especially these edits do from the initial draft is strengthen sort of the checks and balances that are necessary in making the decision on how and who is able to access. And so, you know, there was a time in not so far back history that the council did ask for legal opinions of the city, and we were told no. And so this is actually necessary, even though we have that $10,000, we then didn't have a process, and we were under the assumption that we were gonna need all of that money for more important up and coming opinions that were coming up. And so there was really like a triaging of what opinions could we have access to, because there was a different tenure between the executive office and the council. So I think that what this does, it does actually strengthen a balance between how to access what we're going to need as a city council potentially in the future.
Councilor Perry?
Because in theory, there could be a conflict of interest. That's kind of the idea behind this. If there's a conflict of interest, the council has an out to go somewhere else.
Yes. Any more comments? I guess we'll do a roll call vote.
Councillor Golub,
Yes.
Councillor Gordon,
Yes.
Councillor Master Totoro,
Yes?
Councillor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Councillor Garrett,
Yes.
Councillor Minhas,
Yes.
Councillor Ricketts,
Yes.
Councillor Toronzo,
Yep.
President Bottomley.
Yes and yes.
Okay. The motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to the next, amend rules of procedure 565-12. That's also Councilor Golub.
May I make a note before I read the motion? Is that allowed?
I think,
Yeah?
doesn't the motion have to be read before we can do anything?
Okay. So just know I'll have a note after. Okay. Order number fiscal year 24065. The City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council votes to amend the City Council Rules of Procedure 5652, Rule 12, public participation, by deleting language in strike-through and adding language in bold as follows. Again, I will only read the language that is not strike-through. 56512, Rule 12, public participation, amended 08/17/2022 by order number fiscal year 23023. One. All council meetings oh, this work was done for me. Okay. Okay, thank you for your patience. 1, all council meetings and city and council committee meetings shall provide for a period of public comment. 2, Greenfield residents will be called upon to speak first. Members of the public who are not residents of Greenfield may be called upon to speak after all residents who wish to do so have spoken. 3, when recognized, members of the public shall state their name and town of residence in an audible tone for the record. 4, members of the public shall limit their remarks to matters generally under the purview of the city at full council meetings or the committee at council committee meetings. 5, any citizen or petitioner shall be limited to 3 minutes or another amount of time at the discretion of the presiding officer. 6, upon the request of the presiding officer, all persons shall be silent. Majority vote required.
Second.
And this received a split vote. There were 4 of us present, two things. The entire thing received a split vote. 2 members voted no, 2 members voted yes. And we all agreed on an amendment to this, to the proposal. And the amendment is line 5, to strike through the language 3 minutes or another amount of time at the discretion of, and to add an amount of time determined by, so that line 5 becomes any citizen or petitioner shall be limited to an amount of time determined by the presiding officer.
Point of order, don't we need to second this as it is, and then she makes the amendment, and then we second that?
I believe, there was a.
Oh, what, you,
There was a second.
You seconded it? Okay.
Yes.
So now you're proposing an amendment.
Second.
So,
Counselor
I need
Gilmore?
clarification.
Yeah,
If this received a split recommendation of the entire committee, and then you say that everybody on the committee agreed to this amendment, but that didn't happen in the meeting, that sounds,
No, it happened in the meeting.
No, it
That's
happened
not
in the
true.
meeting.
I didn't say that.
did I misunderstand you?
Yeah. What I'm doing right now, I'm not yet making the motion to amend. I'm presenting the report from committee, and 2 things happened in committee. One is that an amendment was made before we voted on the entire thing, and that amendment was what I just read. Two, do I need, and I will be happy to report on that. An amendment was made, but that didn't pass. So I wasn't reporting. I would
so
like
let's,
to
yeah,
report what
yeah,
the.
let's do one amendment at a time. So you
Right,
had
there's
read
only
an
one amendment that came out of the subcommittee. So 2 things happened. I'll just repeat for clarity. An amendment was made and voted and passed unanimously. And that's the one I read. 2, when we voted on and I'll share that a second amendment was proposed, and that was to strike the word shall in line 1 and replace it with may. That received a split vote of 2-2. And then we voted on the entire thing, and it was a split vote of 2-2. Is that clear for folks?
Yep.
Yeah, I
think we
misunderstood,
got
I'm
that.
sorry.
I think
That's
we got
totally
that history. So you proposed this amendment now that was approved in subcommittee, that we should address that amendment, which would, yes, Counselor.
Point of clarification, so if the first vote was to amend this language to say something different in number 5, and that passed the recommendation, and then, well, got a majority recommendation, then there was a second amendment that got a split, and then the final vote would have been on that last iteration with the first amendment,
That's true.
but that's not what is presented now.
No,
right?
it was entered into the notes, and that is not what is presented now, and so I'm intending to give you the
Right.
entire story.
Okay.
That
Point
amendment.
of clarification from the parliamentarian, and then Councillor Gilmore.
I'm confused.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's too many
You want me to start
votes.
from the beginning? I can share it again.
Let me just see if I get this straight. The motion you're bringing forward from the committee
Yes.
is the motion as amended.
It is not.
It
The
is
amendment
not.
Was entered into the A&O minutes, but it did not show up, it's not showing up here.
Okay, so you need to then we need to consider the main motion as it came out of committee, and that can be amended now by another motion. And that's the second motion you wish to put forward.
Well, I would actually, for Catherine, my intent when was sharing all that information was to give you all a full picture of what happened at A&O.
Right.
And I would also be happy to make that amendment. I support that amendment, but personally, I would like to speak to the full motion. There's Catherine chairing A&O, and there's me as a counselor. So is my job done by presenting what happened at A&O? Are folks clear about that?
Your job is done by presenting the main motion as it came out of committee. Then either you or someone else would have to make a motion to amend.
And is it?
And the motion to amend would take precedence. Council would consider that and vote on that. And then, depending on how that is disposed of, go back to the main motion either as amended or as it stood, depending on the council's will.
So it would be proper to submit or to propose the amendment first, and that we all only discuss that amendment, and then we return to the entire proposal.
Yes,
Am I hearing you right?
someone would make a motion to amend the main motion.
Okay.
And then you would discuss that amendment.
Perfect.
Vote on that, and then go back to the main motion.
So,
Yeah.
thank you. So the entire motion was seconded, correct? Okay. Then, therefore, I will move.
First, I want to make sure I
Okay.
had said Councillor Gilmore had her hand up. I want to make sure, I don't know if you have a point.
I was going to suggest that if this isn't ready for showtime, maybe we need to send it back to committee. Because
it's
they
ready.
can make the amendments and then bring the clean language to us so that we could consider it.
It's ready.
I feel like we're doing our homework in class frequently.
This would be the clerk's office. I think we're ready as a committee. We've done the work as a committee.
Well, I mean, I'm saying like,
It's appropriate.
so normally, like, we would spend several months in committee, like, really, like, editing and re-editing, and you bring the final draft to the city council.
This is the final.
And I would like to move that we send it back to committee until it's ready.
This
no,
is the final draft.
Can I just ask a question?
Hold on a second.
She should have read the whole thing with the amended piece in it the first time.
Currently, the motion on the floor is the motion as written in the packet. If anyone would like to make a motion to amend or send back to committee, you would need to make the motion and obtain a second.
I would move that we send it back to committee, and then we can look at the final draft as it should be written in our code.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion,
We would need a
yes.
second. Hearing none, I will go to Councillor Golub to make, if you want to make the amendment.
moment. Okay. In line 5, I move to strike through the words 3 minutes or another amount of time at the discretion of, and to replace those words with an amount of time determined by, so that that line will read, any citizen or petitioner shall be limited to an amount of time determined by the presiding officer.
Second.
So now this amendment is up for discussion. Any discussion on this from counselors?
So what's the thought process on that amendment?
Counselor Master Totaro?
I think it just makes things a little clearer, not to be confused with, well, it's going to be 3 minutes unless we say something else. So this just covers the whole thing. It's like, hey, we're gonna allow comments according to the discretion of the chair. Easy.
Counselor Gilmore?
So I've chaired subcommittee meetings where we have had longer periods of public comment because there weren't a lot of folks there. We didn't have a lengthy agenda, so it felt like we could really go in depth and tease out more of the nuance. I've also chaired other subcommittees where we've had public hearings where everybody lines up and the fire chief has to hold people out. And to respect everybody's time, it does make sense to limit, when we have lots of speakers, it does make sense to limit people's time, especially if they're all repeating each other. But when you're really getting into an ordinance that's going to affect a small group, probably none of us are experts on what that group is going through. So it's helpful to be able to allow some more flexibility and giving them more time. So that's why I would be fine with leaving the time up to the discretion of the chair. And we just hope that whoever that is responsible enough to sort of make a good judgment call.
Thank you. Any more comments? Counselor Bullock?
Yeah, I'm in support of this. You know, I know that there's a varying spectrum of feelings on public comment and length of time on the council, but I really do think that the amount of public participation that we have, we're lucky to have, and so I'm in support of this. And just for context for newer folks, this was something that was introduced last year in 2023, and then this committee of A&O worked out the details of it. So it is something that has been through A&O for some months now.
Any other comments on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote on this amendment.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Master Totoro?
Yes.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes.
Counselor Toronto?
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
So now we are back to the main motion. As amended. Is there discussion on the amendment as a whole? Counselor Golub?
So this is something that I've been giving a lot of thought to, so much so that I ended up writing you all a speech while writing down my thoughts, so that there's many different points here that I wanted to share with you. So thank you for listening. And, you know, initially I thought that this was actually a pretty obvious minor change. I knew that some counselors didn't support it, but I assumed that a majority would, and I still hope that a majority will. Basically, we were elected to represent our constituents, and if we are not offering time to listen to them, how can we represent well or make really well thought out decisions. And you know, as I've thought about this, I think that even though it's a really relatively minor change, because almost all the subcommittees currently allow for public comment, it really actually says a lot about who we're choosing to be and what we value as a council. And I know that for me, when I was knocking on doors during the last election in Precinct 1, public participation was something that I told people that I was committed to really bolstering, and I feel like this is one way that I can hold that commitment to my constituents. So I'm hoping that we're going to choose to value public participation and representation and really well thought out decisions. But I want to assuage a few, or respond to at least a few different concerns that I've heard people raise. The first is that meetings are long. And I get that. I have a teenager, I run a business, and I am not a night owl. But as councilors, we were elected to represent. And I think that allowing a few minutes per person, or even 2 minutes per person, and allowing ample opportunity helps us make better decisions. Another thing that I've heard often is that, what about Ways and Means? And that Ways and Means meetings in particular could go particularly long. And I'll say that I was on Ways and Means last year when the school funding fight, or school funding struggle, happened. And that was the issue. I count how many, and I save constituents' emails, I count how many people we've heard from. That was the issue. We got over double the amount of emails about that issue from any others. And the meeting, the Ways and Means meeting that was most spoken at only received 5 public comments. So, another is that, what about people, you know, saying the same thing over and over and over again? And I would say that it's not wise legislating to legislate for one individual or a couple of individuals for the entire community, and that as chairs, our responsibility is to facilitate well. And part of that, and you all have seen me, who've seen me facilitate A&O, I cut off public comment at the end of the 3 minutes. And that's our responsibility. But giving people opportunity to speak helps as early in the process as possible, and helps us get to a place where people can be in agreement at the end and not having things go to a referendum or a situation like that. And fifth, I've heard, you know, Greenfielders don't know that we're voting on this, but of course they don't. Of course most people don't know we're voting on this, but I do believe that if we were to put this to a poll of what Greenfielders want, left and right, all sides of the spectrum, I think if you'd ask our neighbors and our constituents what they'd want, they'd say that they'd want to be heard, a couple of minutes at the beginning of meetings to be heard. So thank you so much for listening to me all this time, and I really hope that you'll find it in your consciences to vote to listen to our constituents at our meetings. And yeah, thank you that was long, and I appreciate you listening.
Thanks. Councillor Gilmore.
Okay, so I have a problem with this because we have always been allowed to have public comment at our meetings. And the way that this is being framed is as if we weren't. And I'm getting emails from, I've been serving on, Penny is the only person who's been here longer than me. And I'm getting emails with this tone like, we've never done this. How could you, monster demagogue, not have, we've always had it. It has always been an option. It's whether or not the chair wants to allow it. And that's at the discretion of the chair. I've always allowed public comment when I chair meetings. So I feel like some of this tone and some of the messaging that's going out to people is alienating counselors who should be natural allies for you. And I mean, I could vote this down and know that we could still have public comment at any subcommittee meeting that we want to, but it won't be like forced upon someone where it's not appropriate. Because we do have meetings where we have special meetings and all we do is go into executive session if there's an emergency. Those aren't meetings where it would be appropriate to have public comment because the public isn't supposed to know what we're talking about anyways. So I don't appreciate the framing around this issue among other issues that have come up recently, and I think that counselors should probably spend some more time talking to our president, who is supposed to be leading these meetings and should know what's going on before the meeting starts. The only way I would support this motion is if we took out shall and said may, because that reflects our current practice, and I'm fine with codifying that, but I'm not going to vote for it if it says shall.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Toronzo.
I'm going to echo exactly what Councillor Gilmore just said. I've said this from the beginning when I saw this language. I don't think it's appropriate to use words like shall in situations like this. I also take issue with members of the public shall limit their remarks to matters generally under the purview of the city at full council meetings. As we just saw over this last month, that doesn't happen anyway. So putting a shall on free speech is also not something that I'm in agreement with. Shall is a big word when it comes to law, and it should be used very, very sparingly. So I take issue with that as well. As far as communication and public engagement, the public has our emails that are given to us by the city. Some of us have our phone numbers posted as contact. Some of us do not. That's a way for the public to address us for the 30 days or so between our meetings. They can also speak at public comment at most subcommittee meetings. It's very rare. And yes, I didn't have it at the fully remote one that I had to hold from a hotel room for a ridiculous reason, where I could have just canceled the meeting. But because I knew the situation of multiple counselors were on vacation at the time, I chose to eliminate public comment to get to the meat and potatoes of what was going on. It was pretty pedestrian, and I knew that there was going to be public comment on the same exact thing the very next night. So why reiterate? It's going to be probably the same people saying the same thing both nights. That, to me, isn't about having a long meeting. That's about wasting people's time. We are volunteers. I take this job very seriously. I do a lot of work outside of this, as I'm sure many of us do. But what I don't appreciate is when some folks sit there and say, I really appreciate your time, and now let me waste it. That's what it sounds like sometimes. When that's not being taken seriously from our constituents. And I'm not trying to shoot down public comment by any means, by any stretch, and don't misshape that. What I'm saying is there's a responsibility on both parties, all parties involved. And that's why we already have the capacity to do public comment and just leave it alone. It doesn't, not everything needs to be tightened up with this like chokehold of language on everything. It's just, it's working. I've been here for 2+ years, and I haven't heard anybody ever say, you know what, we really wish you had public comment, because we have public comment all the time. So it's essentially litigating something that is fine as it is. And I also thought it was funny that we took out non-residents. That was also weird, but I'll be voting no on it. Same thing, if the words shall are staying in there, there's no way I can vote for this.
Councillor Wondolowski.
Heated ideas on all sides, and I'm a newbie, so I'll give you my perspective. We came in with a mayor who talked a lot about transparency, so to me this makes a lot of sense. I first started coming to Ways and Means meetings last spring when I was upset about the school, so having that public comment I think is really important. It helps to shape what we do before it gets to the full council, and I really appreciate the great ideas that are coming from our constituents. So I'm really supportive of this. Vice President Gilmore, I don't know if there's a way to amend this to carve out special meetings, because I understand your point about that, and when it's that kind of meeting, it might not make sense to add public participation, so.
You can't, it's the law. She doesn't understand.
Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, I am in support of this. I have the experience prior to being a counselor of attending a public meeting where the chair did not agree that there should be public comment because there had been an issue that had blown up in the community. And so many people attended a public meeting and then were told that they couldn't speak because the chair did not agree with the topic at hand and didn't want to hear about it. And so, I have the recent memory of being someone who came and sat and felt very, very frustrated that there wasn't representation of the issue that I wanted to speak to on the council or the viewpoint that I had being represented. And, there's like a lot of things that I agree with that both of you have said. The thing about special meetings, I 100% agree that we do this. My experience on council in the last 2 years is that we do this. And that's, I think, unique in some ways. I don't think every chair of a committee does allow this to happen. And I think that I have a hard time stomaching this like condemnation of the public who wants to have a voice. We are in a place of like privilege and power to be able to sit here. Prior to being a counselor, I had no idea like how much work it was going to be, but also like how much is going on at a city level. And things do get personal. I think that as chair of EDC, I could many times say, hey, there's a certain person who comes to my meeting and I know is going to speak every time, and I don't want to hear it anymore. But I don't believe I should have that right as a chair. I believe that like 2 minutes is the least that I can do for someone. And so I just think that this is important, and I 100% agree with Catherine that if we put this out, the spectrum of the sort of political spectrum across Greenfield would say, yes, we want more voice and public participation in our legislative process.
I'm going to jump in here for a minute because I heard the words condemnation of the public, which I actually think is absurd. I've been on this council for 4 years. I maybe started watching 7 years ago, and I've really seen nothing but respect to the public. I have not witnessed that in the meetings, and we have counselors that have been served for quite a long time. So I find that an incredibly strong comment. I value public comment deeply.
I'm sorry that if you felt that was
I found that
objective
kind of
to you.
actually offensive of what I've seen and what I've witnessed of past counselors and chairs. So I'll move on to Ricketts was next.
It's Councilor Ricketts to you. No, I'm just kidding. Kidding. Okay, I'm a vote no on this, basically because I received emails about it. I've been on council for 10 years. We've always had public comment, always, always, always. We've never had a problem with it. And people could come forward. I have my phone number out there. People have always called. People called this time. With this resolution, it was the first time I had people texting me. For 10 years, no one ever texts me over, will you vote for something, except for this. But and Councilor Gilmore, you're right. The way people were sending us, like, you got to have this so we can start having it, it's like, when did we ever stop having it? We have let people speak every single meeting. And I can tell that some of it starts with some of the folks at council telling their folks and getting them all to email in because it has never been a problem before. I don't understand how we get all these same people writing the same things about something that's never been a problem. They would have said something, because there's been different groupings of counselors up here over the years, and no one has brought this forward. And it's being forward now like this is a big deal. Like, this is like, guess what? Look at me. Guess what? I got everybody to get public comment for every subcommittee meeting. You always could speak at every subcommittee meeting. Even if you spoke, you were right, Councilor Toronto, if you spoke the night before and wanted to come the very next day and speak again at full council, it's always been allowed. You've always been able to email. I think you said we got like 2,000 emails over the resolution, whatever. I respond to every single email. Even today, when people wrote and said, and I want to thank this one and this one and this one who voted yes, I wrote back and said, thank you for sending that email to them. Every email I respond to, no matter what. And even the ones that were bots when it came back and said, guess what, it was undeliverable? I didn't care. I did my job because it's what I do. It doesn't matter how I'm going to vote. It matters that I take this job seriously and I do it every single day. And I always do it. So when I'm hearing these comments I'm hearing today, as if you guys are inventing something, yeah, for someone who's been on council for 10 years, it is really hurtful for me, and I don't even care when you look at each other and you smirk. I don't care how childish and immature you're being. It is really disrespectful for me, for you guys to be sitting here and saying the things that you're saying about public comment. This room has been packed, even during the school budget time, but I also saw counselors saying things on social media and stuff and revving that all up at the same time. I'm so glad I was in the time of serving all these years where people just came because they wanted to come and they wanted to speak. I don't have to go out there and make people come to this meeting to talk about anything. They come on their own because they care and they pay attention to what they want. You know, I think the talking about, we have to care about them. We have to give them their time. It's really important. They want that transparency. When hasn't it been there? You're all sitting here. You had to come for some reason. It couldn't have been that transparent. It couldn't have been that hard. You wanted to be part of this. You all joined this. And now you're here, and now you want to change something that's not even broken. I don't understand it at all. I'm going to vote no. I don't care what word you put in there. Shall, may, whatever. You can amend the whole thing over. I'm going to be a no vote no matter what, because it's like you're throwing away my 10 years of service over trying to be on your soapbox about something and trying to save the community and going, guess what? I'm doing this for you. We've always done it for them.
Councillor Minhas?
Yeah, first up, sorry I can't be there in person today. It's the month of fasting, so like the fast opens right as the meeting is happening, so I'm online. I would just like to, I don't know if it's possible, but I'd just like to lower the temperature of this conversation. I just want to say I respect all the counselors and all the years that they've put in. I don't think anyone is saying that we don't want public comment. I don't think anyone is accusing anyone else of saying that they don't want public comment. Public comment is important, and I think we all can agree on that. I think this is just a little tweak to ensure that. I think one thing that one counselor mentioned that I liked is we shouldn't legislate based on a specific person. We shouldn't legislate based on a specific issue, but in general. It's like a rule of democracy. You build laws, you build regulations, where even if your worst enemy was in a position of power, where even your worst opponent was in a position of power, and you were on the other side, you would still have a voice. And this is, I'm not trying to like hype this up. I'm not trying to like, and I don't have that much experience. I just got on the council, but it's my understanding that we're here to represent people. We don't rule over them. And so, like, the more opportunities that people have to come and speak and say what they want, the better. And I know it's uncomfortable, and I know we don't get paid for it that much, and I know it's annoying, and people can go on and on about issues that have nothing to do with what's on hand, but that's our job. That's why we signed up for this. Nobody forced us and like was like, okay, now you have to be a council. No. If you don't want to do it, you didn't have to. And I'm not saying that the people who are opposed to this are like against the public or against democracy, but I'm just trying to remind us our job is to represent people and to facilitate their opinions being put on a forum. And I think this would just be a tweak which would help people ensure that their voice could be heard. This is not saying that we haven't done this. We have done this, and that's one of the beautiful things about this council and the people that have been serving on this council is that they've allowed public comment. They've ensured that people can come and speak their mind. And all I think I'm trying to say is let's continue to do that and let's codify that. And I understand the specific about special meetings and stuff. And so I don't know how exactly that would work, but I don't know. Can we lower the temperature? Because it feels like people are throwing punches and I'm on a screen right now. So I think we all respect each other. So thank you for everyone being here and being part of this. And I think the public also understands that. But let's let's lower the temperature and just keep this to an issue rather than personality clashes. Thank you.
Councillor Gordon?
Thank you. I would echo a lot of what Councillor Minhas said. I'm a bit surprised at the tenor of this conversation. This did not strike me as a very substantive change, knowing that we have provided a lot of opportunities for public comment, certainly at every council meeting and also at most subcommittee meetings. And similar to Councillor Minhas, this strikes me as a positive change to simply codify what has been a regular practice of this in previous councils that I very much support. Sometimes I wonder if I'm reading the same emails from I mean, I know they're the same emails because they all get forwarded to us by the same people, but you know, the idea that we've gotten a lot of emails that have been kind of like, no one used this word tonight. I have heard it used in the past, like bullying or harassing or demanding. That's just not my experience of the emails that we've received, like 97% of the time, right? Like people could be a little more polite sometimes. They could make different linguistic choices. I'm sure I could have as well when I was a member of the public emailing the council. But in general, I've found the tone to always be respectful. I don't feel like people are making these demands like you have to do this. And I do think it's fair to read, you know, the emails we're getting and to acknowledge that a number of people have emailed us asking us to make this change. And that I've also had opportunities to speak with people in the community including when I was knocking on doors during election season and people saying, yeah, I'd love to see, you know, more ways to give input to the council. And I think the whole point is that it shouldn't be up to us, you know, to say when there can be public comment and when there can't, with the special meeting exception, which is a really good point. But you know, there are definitely things we didn't sign up for, including harassment and bullying, none of which I feel that I've experienced since I got on the council. We didn't necessarily sign up to listen to the opinions of lots of non-residents who might try to come and talk to us, but I absolutely listened. I absolutely signed up to listen to the public. And not to tell them what they should or shouldn't be concerned about, or to say I only want to hear what your concerns are when it's, you know, easier for me. But the public, I think, deserves to have as many sort of structured pathways and opportunities to give us input as we can provide them. And you know, it certainly doesn't mean we can't put limitations on it. It certainly doesn't mean we can't enforce, you know, expectations of, you know, or shut down inappropriate comments or behavior. Just like, you know, happens in general council meetings here. But I would love to see this pass. I think that it would be great to give people as many opportunities for input as possible. Thanks.
Councillor Gilmore, and then Councillor Perry.
I already spoke, so you should skip over me till everyone else has spoken.
Councillor Perry.
I hear everybody loud and clear. The problem I have now is the horse is out of the barn, and now perception's reality. So now we kind of put ourselves in a corner. I also heard it said that this started in the last council with the previous council president involved in this movement. Is that correct? That this conversation started in the previous council with the previous president talking about this sort of stuff?
But it had started in the previous A&O subcommittee.
All right.
And it was brought forward by a citizen, I believe.
Okay. All right, so that, that kind of changes the tone too. I mean, so thank you for all your good work. I feel like we have no choice but to vote. And I also saw this as a issue for the subcommittees. It wasn't talking about the council meetings. I took it as the subcommittees, and so it's just qualifying some of that. Now I feel like I have no choice but to vote yes, because if I vote no, it sends a message of, oh, you're trying to hide something, or you're trying to, or whatever it might be. I appreciate the work. I agree, we have emails. People should use the emails as much as they can. We all read them. We all got a few emails in the last few weeks, and so email is important too, but unfortunately, the right for public speech is something we really need to honor. And I hear what you guys are saying, and I agree with you too, but I just feel it's too late for that now. We've already, opened the door, and I don't think we can go back in. Thanks.
Councilor Gilmore?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you had made a comment earlier, and now Councilor Perry has made the same comment, that by putting this out in the first place as if it didn't exist makes those of us who have been here for a long time look like we were not listening. And I'm so offended by that. And I hate the way it's being framed, that if you disagree with me, not only are you wrong, but you're a bad person. And I really want the tone on this council to change. I've never felt so disrespected by colleagues before, and I've served with some colleagues who were very different from me politically, but treated me with a lot more respect. I would also like to make I want to make an amendment that we change this to may instead of shall, because that wraps up the issue with the special meetings.
Second.
So we have discussion on the amendment.
Who did the second? I'm sorry.
I have Councilor Gordon and then Garrett. Yes.
I have a question. You were changing shall to may throughout the document?
No,
It
sorry.
is in
It was,
5
I believe it was line 1.
places.
Let me pull it back up on my phone.
So Councilor.
In line 1, all council meetings and council may provide a period of public comment in
Only that
line
one.
Only that one.
Okay, thank you.
So we are in discussion of the amendment. Councilor Gordon.
Thank you. I guess I'm still just surprised, and I'm sorry to hear that some councilors are hearing this as a criticism of things that have happened on past councils or the way that anyone has run meetings. I certainly didn't read it that way. I know that people have been very appreciative every time we have given opportunities for public comment in subcommittee meetings as well as the full council meeting. So, it's certainly happened, and I haven't gotten the sense that people don't think that's true. I think that changing shall to may just undermines the whole point of this. Like, there's essentially no point in any of it, frankly, if we change shall to may, because that goes back to the status quo ante. That's the situation we're in now. So there's no reason, I think, for that. I mean, unless we have to vote on something, and so we have to vote on that. I'm too new to parliamentary procedure, but I will be voting no on the amendment because it, I think, defeats the purpose.
Councilor Garrett.
So I just want to thank Councilor Mienhaas for identifying the tension in the room and trying to take the temperature down. So I appreciate just him coming in and trying to do that just right off the beginning. So I operate, generally speaking, in a position of assuming people are coming in with good faith. And I also am really trying to do my best to listen to, especially the veteran members of the council. And this, again, what I hear is a rift in perception of how we're treating each other. And that's not a good place for us to be. One of the things, again, I believe Councilor Golub everywhere that she said she is sincere of and isn't acting in ill faith. And I also 100% believe that we are in a position where the veteran counselors here feel like they're being pushed against and again, by implying there's an omission. Again, Councilor Gilmore, I listened loud and clear to what you're saying here. As far as we're on an amendment right now to deal with the word may versus shall. Is there so this is more of a parliamentary procedure kind of question. Can you do something along the lines of saying, like, there shall be public comment, and this is not, I know we're on this amendment right this moment. Sorry, I hear a ring and I'm just worried it's my cell phone. Oh, okay. I was worried it was me. I'm like, oh God, I'm being rude as I'm trying to talk. Sorry. Let me get back to that thought. Is there a way to do something along the lines of saying, like, there shall be public comment in all subcommittee meetings unless the council president gives permission? Then you could, like the open meeting law has a list of reasons, like the special meetings, something like that Councilor Perry mentioned. Is that parliamentarily possible?
It already says presiding officer. Yeah, it already says presiding officer. So Robert's rules already allows the presiding officer to make the rules at the meeting. They can allow public comment, they cannot allow public comment. It already exists. So this would just codify the language in the rules of procedure as proposed and amended and possibly re-amended. So it already exists to allow the presiding officer to rule the roost.
What about something along the lines of, and again, I will continue letting other folks ask questions and speak in just a moment, but what about something along the lines of, if it's canceled, then they have to give a reason, and it can only be one of so many reasons, kind of restricting the ability of the chair, but not absolutely prohibiting them?
I mean, I'll say we're getting into a lot of theoretical, and I think you can possibly amend and create a lot of scenarios. I just have to say, it's just such a bizarre narrative that somehow that what we're doing is broken. I think it's a created narrative. So we can, I mean, I don't know, are you after Councilor Toronzo for not having public comment? I don't know what's going on here. This has worked fine. I'm so confused by this, and I'm really frustrated because we're going to go in circles and circles on echoing what Councilor Ricketts said. For 10 years has worked in our community really well. We listen to our community. I'm confused. Councilor Vice President Gilmore.
This is kind of what I was talking about when I was saying it feels like we're doing our homework in class right now, because if we're talking about, like, if we could have a list of reasons why a chair wouldn't allow public comment, or if we could say it should be strongly suggested, or like this should have happened at the subcommittee level. And I would like to see like more of and I'd be happy to make a motion if somebody would be willing to second the motion that we send this back to committee. And if someone will second it, I'll make the motion.
There's already a motion on the table.
I will withdraw the amendment, and I make a motion that we send this back to subcommittee.
Have someone withdraw their second.
I withdraw my second.
And we send this back to subcommittee, and it can come back in final draft form so that we can vote on it.
Second.
Do we have discussion on that, sending it back to committee?
What committee?
Councilor Perry.
I could support that. However, I can support that because one of the reasons I'm here is because I felt. One of the reasons why I'm here is because I felt what you just said: changing tone, working together, forming a unity that we can present ourselves to the community and have some trust. I think we should be able to trust the chairs to do their jobs. And so, I trust the chairs to do their jobs. And so I agree, we don't need this. Unfortunately, as I said before, it's already out there. So now we almost have an obligation to, let the community know that we support the public comment at any venue. If we're going to send it back to the committee, maybe we could send some recommendations to the committee that we feel that might help us, accept this when it comes back. Otherwise, maybe we should just get rid of it to begin with and just take any heat that we get from the public. But so I would support sending it back to committee.
Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, I mean, I'll support this going back to committee at this point. I think for me, this was about citizens having a right to speak and it not being at the discretion. And I'll just reiterate that within the last 10 years, I have had the experience as a citizen of going to a committee and not being allowed to speak on a topic that I wanted to speak on that was in front of the committee at the discretion of the chair. There was no one sitting at this table, so that's not a personal attack. And I'm very confused I'm very confused about how this has become a personal thing. Like that piece is confusing to me because I think what my experience has been since I've been on council is that even in our past iteration of council before the new councilors arrived, committee chairs did allow public comment, but it was at the discretion of the chair. And so that can change. We've had very different city councilors over the years, and it's at the discretion of the council. And so I'll support this going back because for whatever reason tonight, this has become a personal thing, which is not our job. Like, that's not what we're doing here. Our job is to discuss the matter at hand and the motion at hand. That should not, it should not be a personal affront to any one of us. And so I think at this point it has to go back if we're gonna get anywhere tonight.
Councillor Minhas?
Yeah, am I missing something? It seems like I'm watching some sort of TV show. Is there some beef or drama that's behind the scenes and then people are using? I don't understand what is going on. Okay, my specific reasoning for why I would support this is because this town, this city has a specific political leaning. This council has a specific political leaning. And there are people who are not represented, who are my friends. Okay, I'll say it. There are conservatives who are my friends, and they don't get to be represented fully, and their voice doesn't get to be heard. And they should have a chance, as does everyone else, and everyone should have a chance to be able to go to a public meeting and speak what they want to. But it seems like that's not what the conversation topic is at all. And actually, it's about specific personalities glaring at each other. I don't understand. This seems childish, and I don't understand what's going on. This is embarrassing.
Right now, the motion is to send it back to committee, so I'd appreciate if we could stay on that topic, speaking of that. So I have Councillor Master Totaro, then Golub.
I suppose, I don't even know why we need microphones. There's nobody here.
People on TV.
I know. We got to go back to committee, that's fine. Here's the thing. There's Robert's rules. I'm new to this council, I get it, but I've been on boards, I've been on committees, and Robert's rules is put in place for a reason. And to take control from a presiding officer, to me, is ridiculous, because that's what you're doing. You're taking away the control. There's reasons somebody's got to be in charge to make decisions. I am all for leaving it as it is, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there I am. I'll do whatever you guys want to do. We want to take this back to committee. I'm going to have the same opinion as I have tonight as I had last week when we got together. So There it is.
Counselor Golub.
Okay. So, a few things. One, the history that I'm aware of. There may be something here that I'm not aware of, and I think that I might need to have a couple of conversations. Just repair, I'm not sure. I really honestly am quite confused, but the history that I'm aware of is that how this came forward. Councillor Lipinski brought this forward I'm giving you the history. You were there, I think. Councillor Lipinski brought it forward. Then a resident, and I was like, this is not my pet issue. I do believe strongly in public participation, but this isn't like, I wasn't wanting this huge heated conversation. This is not what I was going for. Councilor Lipinski brought it up. And then a resident wanted us to bring it forward. Later in this meeting, I'm going to say if a resident's wanting us to bring something forward, I think it's important that somebody sponsor it. So I agreed to sponsor it. This is something that I agree with. But if my intent is not to make people feel trapped, I've never called you a bad person. I don't know where that's coming. I see your face.
So I want to just
okay,
stay
sorry,
on.
sorry.
Should this go back to committee? That is what we're.
I know,
that
and
is
I'm
the
getting
motion
there.
on the
I
floor.
actually am
So if we
getting
can
there.
all stick to that, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I am getting there. I'm confused about, I agree to sponsor it. I'm okay if this, I believe that it's in alignment with everything that I said. I won't be heartbroken if this doesn't pass. Like, this is not my most important issue. I am quite confused about and taken aback. But my intent is not to make you feel trapped or to feel like this is a personal affront. And so I actually had texted President Bottomley saying, could we table this? Could we take it off the agenda? Because I think it's going to be really heated and this isn't where I'm wanting to go. But I couldn't at that point. So I do support bringing it back to committee unless there is a majority of the council that really wants to see this go forward. Then this is not what I was intending. I would say, yeah, let's send it back to committee. I'm not sure that we work on it that much more. I don't know what happens then, but I'll support it going back to committee.
Do we have any more comments on sending it back to committee, or are we ready to vote? Seeing none, we're ready to do a roll call vote.
Councillor Golub?
Yes.
Councillor Gordon?
Yes.
Councillor Master Totoro?
Yes.
Councillor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Councillor Perry?
Yes.
Councillor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Minhas? Could you repeat?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Ricketts?
Yes?
Councillor Toronzo?
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously, so send it back to committee.
Wow, now we move on to zoning amendment, section 200-50, major development review. This is Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, this should be an easy one for us. So, FY 24-070, the city council order, move that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, article, 7, special regulations, chapter 200, zoning section 50, major development review, subsection B, application, paragraph 1, by deleting 3,000 and replacing it with 2,000 as follows. Section 200-50B1, number 1, all new uses as defined by the Greenfield zoning ordinance that generate 2,000 vehicle trips per day or more in the general commercial district and/or 1,500 vehicle trips per day in any other district, subsection B1 amended by the City Council on March 20th, 2019, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code And further, that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. Okay, 2/3 vote
We have
required.
a second. So this is on the floor, report from committee.
So we, as many of you probably know, this was a petition that was brought forward to the city of Greenfield. When it was voted on in committee, it was voted 4-1, one dissenting vote of a no, and yeah, we took public comment in that meeting, and we had a couple of people comment on it. We've received some emails. And as you all heard, we had sort of a fill in the blank today from our planning department, which I think was helpful for me. I will just say on the onset here that I support this. I was torn on this at the beginning. I think that there is reasons why we should do this. 2000 matches with the state major development review. They call it something different. And I think it could be useful. I think that we have that list of 7 other towns. The 7 towns, it actually isn't a complete landscape of what Massachusetts does for major development reviews. I did a little more digging after that meeting and after learning about this rotary redesign, which I'm hoping to have some information at the next meeting on. But there is a rotary redesign that the Mass DOT is going to be doing in that exact area. And so really what this is doing is it would be bringing us into alignment with the state DOT regulations, which is at 2000. And just for process for people to know, if we vote this down tonight, it can be brought back because we have the planning board's yes, unanimous yes on this. So it could be brought back at another time. We can also table this, as I think it might be another heated conversation, but maybe we got it out of our system. And then I think the only thing of note for me is that, what I've been trying to do with this, because I've heard from a lot of constituents specifically about the businesses that are going into this area. And as I've said at other meetings, I'm really trying to take my chair position on EDC, not looking at specific businesses and looking at what planning is necessary for our city. And so that's hard to do at this moment in time because we have 2 potential businesses at the, on the horizon there. Yeah, so I think that's all the context.
Thank you. It's open for anyone who wants to address this. Any comments? Councilor Gordon.
I'll just say that I'm very much in favor of this. It seems pretty simple to me. We've heard unanimously from the planning board, from city departments. Everyone thinks that this is a perfectly fine idea. We've heard that it certainly wouldn't get in the way of certain businesses coming in now. And in fact, has never gotten in the way of any business coming in. And I actually think it's important to note that MDR really can help us as a community and help businesses just make sure that, we've identified any potential problems and pitfalls before, construction gets underway and really can be beneficial to the business as well as to us. So I see no reason not to vote yes on this.
Councilor Wondolowski.
Just really briefly, I really appreciated the background and all the work that's been done in committee on this. And the only thing that had given me pause is what Director Cahalan said about seeming reactionary to the businesses, because I don't want us to be in that position that we're changing rules or look like we're changing rules when this is a good rule. So let's do it now so we don't have to keep doing this.
Councilor Gilmore.
I just have to say, I have to vote no on this. I was part of the council in 2019 when we made a deal to get the library, and I promised that I was not going to undo it as soon as my colleagues were gone, and I'm going to hold fast to that.
Councillor Perry?
Thank you for saying that, because that was my issue, and it still is my issue. You know, I just feel that if we second guess what happened in 2019 with that council, and we pull the 3,000, well, in theory, we should pull the library too. You know, take the library off of Main Street, because that was what happened. And so I'm not comfortable second guessing what the city council did in 2019, so I'm going to vote no.
Councillor Garrett?
I'm also an EDC, and I voted yes in subcommittee, and I'll be voting yes today. This is, so one of the things that has happened this evening is there's been a lot of history and personality, and, you know, I just want to echo what Chair Bullock just said about not legislating for individual projects, but I also just don't want us to legislate about individual people. And just to, you know, Mr. Norman is in the room. He has a long history of, you know, being an advocate for the ideas he believes in, which is absolutely something that people that believe in ideas should do. But I didn't vote yes because Mr. Norman suggested that we did, I didn't vote yes because I want to undo the work of a council that previously existed. I respect the work of that previous council, but I'm trying to look at this via what we're actually being asked to vote on. It's not, do we spit in the face of the council in 2019? It's not, do we kill Starbucks? The only, you know, the question I asked earlier to, I think it was Mr. Tuareg, just about would this potentially put Starbucks into major development review? I'm not entirely certain. You know, again, it sounds like maybe not, but regardless, cars and the volume of cars have an impact on many different things: the environment, people's bodies. I have up right now the Mass DOT traffic, you know, crash dashboard, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with right now. And this is an issue that really animates me. People will walk to Stop and Shop. They will walk to Starbucks. They will bike there. Maybe they work there. Maybe they're working in a minimum wage job. And they inevitably, it's just the more interactions between vehicles and people, the more likely they are to get hit by a car. And that is potentially life-threatening. That's potentially dangerous. That's absolutely potentially deadly. And that's something that I think we should really consider. And so this metric in particular, I think is valuable, not just for a major development project on a commercial property, but just in general. If we're doing something that's going to cause lots and lots of vehicles to be moving, and that's a section of road that moves really quickly, you know, it's a, because this is the kind of thing I like to think of, I nerd out about, but like if a car is traveling at 40 miles an hour, the fatality rate is nearly 70%. You know, and that's nationwide. These are nationwide statistics. It's always different on different roads. And that's a road where, if it's clear, you could be going 40 miles an hour, and there could be somebody who's got a minimum wage job at Starbucks or Aldi's, and they could get hit by a car. And so I hear the history. I understand that we don't want to kill the golden goose as far as development is concerned. You know, somebody mentioned, I believe in EDC, that this development, this whole plaza, this kind of car-oriented plaza, is a tremendous amount of revenue for town. That's fabulous. We need the revenue. I don't want to see, you know, again, personally, am I going to be shopping at Aldi's or going to Starbucks? No, I'm not. I'll go to some place that isn't one of these companies. But I don't want to kill the golden goose. And so I think we can do both things at the same time. We can be really cautious and thoughtful, and we can have development. And so, like I said, I'm going to be a yes on this, and I don't think that these things have to be tied into the history. And at what point, you know, like, are we going to be held to a deal? And Councilor Gilmore, I respect that you made a personal promise.
My honor.
Yeah, no, I do.
I'm holding myself to, I gave my word.
Yeah, no, but again, how long are we going to hold ourselves to a past council? We're a legislative body. Every act that we do can be undone by the next legislative body that comes in, next councilors. We could all resign because we're sick of fighting with each other. And, you know, we just want to be nice to somebody, you know, and then 13 new people show up, and they could undo the whole thing. They could say, you know what, I'm sorry, I'll stop. I could get into a rant, so I will defer. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mastrotataro.
I voted no last time this came to us. I'm probably going to do the same thing. If it came to the point where we lowered the threshold and I don't want to make it harder for businesses to come to the town. Right now, we need business. If we lowered the threshold to whatever number it might be, in this case 2,000, it's going to cost whoever it is that wants to come to town to do the study. And we have so many empty storefronts, and that whole area west of the Rotary is a commercial district. It's set up to have these businesses. Starbucks isn't even really anything new. The structure is there. They do some modification, and again, I think as they both spoke to us earlier, we keep changing the rules. People are going to get disgusted. There's nothing wrong with the way this reads right now. I don't see anybody having getting 3,000 cars is not an easy feat. And again, we're just like changing rules to change rules here tonight. We've got Robert's rules dictates who can speak, when can speak, and who oversees a meeting. We've got this in place. It's been in here for a while now. I remember the whole library thing, and I know nobody wants to talk about that. I wasn't on the council, but I'll tell you, I remember it well. So I'm a no. Again, why do we have to like fix things for the sake of fixing them? To me, it's almost 10 o'clock, and we've been beating one issue over one word for over an hour. So I'm done with it. I'm going to vote like I did the last time. I'm going to vote no. And if it comes before us again, I'm going to vote no again. Thank you.
Any other councilors that wish to speak to this? Councilor Minhas.
Yes. Okay, yeah, it is getting late, but okay. Again, I would just like to say, let's decontextualize issues from a specific person and from a specific project. I don't want to like keep saying this over and over, but this is not anti-business to require more scrutiny and to make the process more transparent to the public, to see what these corporations want, what these corporations are going to do to the demographics of the town, to the traffic of the town. This is not like anti-business. And I think just the people involved in this debate, the different groups that are involved in it, I think that has just really marred what the debate should actually be. But this is coming from someone who is involved in running a business. That's what my family's done their whole life. We've been in Greenfield, and this is not something that could be like, oh no, never mind, I don't want to be here. No, that's not how it works. Nobody's going to be like, oh my God, no, I don't want to make money anymore because the town wants me to like reevaluate what it would do. That's not how it works. So this is, I don't like the framing of this being as anti-business. This is a tool that the town has and that the public has to ensure that we know what is happening to our town. And so I'm going to vote yes on this.
Any other councilors? Councilor Bullock.
Who wants to speak though before I go? That hasn't spoken. No. Okay. There's just a couple things that I really thought this through. I was a no at the beginning of this process when it came in front of me. I've changed to a yes over time. I respect counselors that have been here and made agreements in the past based on this and where you are now. The few things that, you know, I think there's a few things here. One, for the number of cars to hit that threshold of like 1,000 more cars per day, you have to be a significant business of means. For someone like, let's just say Dunkin' Donuts, to do an MDR, it's not a huge hurdle, right? If they're on a state road, they're already gonna have to do it at 2,000. Many of our roads are state roads. And so any Dunkin' Donuts that comes to town, I hope there's not one trying because we have a lot, and I'm not trying to discourage them, is gonna have to do an MDR in our city because that's what DOT says. If it goes on to 5 and 10, if it goes on to Route 2, if it goes on to any state road, it's codified at 2,000 already. Friendly's in its heyday probably had a similar number of cars coming off the highway to get ice cream, to get burgers, like whatever, and now it doesn't. But with a Starbucks in our town, and I don't even care for Starbucks, we are gonna get a meals tax on all of those people that just come off the highway and get their coffee. We need that, but we also need it to be a functioning pass through for those people and for the people, like Councillor Garrett said, who are trying to go home or to and from their jobs or cross the street where it's a terrible place to cross the street right there. We just had an accident there with cars last week. So, and the last piece that I want to say about this is that, and no offense, Al, because you've done a lot of work on this. Had this come from the wisdom of the planning board to us alone, I think it would look different. And had the timing been different, I think it would look different. And what I want to see is the wisdom of our planning board coming to us and saying, hey, what we need is X, Y, and Z. And so I can't vote against this because I've already asked them for that multiple times over the last 2 years, like that I want to see our town planned. And I think that this starts to do that, and it takes care of the people. It puts us in line with a state regulation. And I don't think it's a significant hurdle if you look at the amount of cars per business. So, you know, I'm really torn if I should table this or if we should just vote on it, but I don't think it matters because it can come back either way. So I think we should just vote on it for fun.
Does that mean we're all ready to vote? Yes, roll call vote, please.
Absolutely. Counselor Golub.
Yes.
Counselor Gordon.
Yes.
Counselor Mastrotoro.
Nope.
Counselor Bullock.
Yes.
Counselor Vice President Gilmore.
No.
Counselor Perry.
No.
Counselor Wondolowski.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Counselor Minhas.
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts.
No?
Counselor Toronzo.
No.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and no.
The motion fails.
What's next? Zoning amendment, Councillor Bullock.
Okay, that was fun, wasn't it? Which one is this? Okay, yeah, order number FY 24-069.1. The City Council moved that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, Chapter 200, zoning, Section 3, terms and words by adding the following language in bold to the definition of farm and poultry. Farm poultry, premises used in the production of poultry and/or eggs having more than 10 poultry. Premises on parcels of land less than 5 acres are allowed to have up to 10 poultry, not to include roosters. and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. 2/3 vote required.
Second, Ricketts?
This had a unanimous positive recommendation. There was a question about enforcement of roosters because many of us have rooster problems.
Discussion? Counselor Garrett?
I have literally been waiting all night for this. I'm not kidding.
So
'Cause-
funny, I was going to say the same thing,
No.
but I'm kidding.
I'm not kidding, because I was looking for the excuse to say, Greenfield residents, once we pass this, hang on, let me get it right.
Yeah.
Cockle-doodle-don't have a rooster on less than 5 acres.
Okay.
That could have
And I
went
will
horribly wrong.
I will say no more.
Can we fire him?
Yeah, could we?
I move that Counselor Garrett be removed from his position
Yeah.
for disgracing our community with his bad jokes.
We need a bleep button for him
We
or
needed
something.
levity, right, you know?
That could have went wrong.
Counselor Ricketts. Counselor Ricketts, you have to follow that one up.
No, I seriously was going to say, oh, I wanted to talk about this desperately, and I was kidding. No, I don't care. Yes.
Any more discussion on this? Roll call vote.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Totoro.
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
The next zoning amendment, Counselor Bullock.
FY 24-069.2, the city council moved that it, my neck's off, sorry. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200 zoning, section 3, terms and words by striking the following language in strike through and replacing with the following language in bold to the definition of dwelling 3-family. Dwelling 3-family, a detached building containing 3 dwelling units, and we're striking where each of the 3 units of any portion thereof must be above or below at least one of the other units, and adding also referred to as a triplex. And further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further the non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. 2/3 votes required.
Second?
This was also a unanimous positive. All this is doing is making it so that a 3-family can be like side-by-side, single-family or single floor, rather than being like they call them triple deckers where I grew up, like 3 on top. So it was unanimous. There's a need for single level living in our city, and we just if you want to build a 3-family, please do.
Any discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Sorry, my pencil is dying, but that's okay. I got a pen. Oh, thank you. Counselor Golub,
Yep.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Totoro.
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Counselor Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Order number FY 24-69.3. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, zoning section 55, marijuana establishment, subsection B, applicability, paragraph 4, by deleting the following language in strike through for no more than 8 marijuana retailers, and we're striking through and no more than 4 marijuana delivery operators. shall be allowed within the city of Greenfield. The number of licenses for brick and mortar marijuana retailers shall be capped at 8. A marijuana outdoor cultivation is limited to Tier 1, 5,000 square feet per license. No person or entity having direct or indirect control shall be granted or hold more than 3 licenses in a particular class. The maximum outdoor canopy permissible under all licenses for a single parcel is 15,000 square feet, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. 2/3 vote required.
Second?
So this one was unanimous as well. And we had some rationale that was brought forward. So there was a law that we had to be in compliance with by a certain date. I think it was July, from the Mass Cannabis Control Committee. And it was about social equity in the cannabis industry. And so this is like a start to that process. We couldn't really make the correlation here of how the social equity was happening by lifting the cap on marijuana delivery operators, but that's what we're doing to be in compliance. So we have none. There's not like a rush of marijuana delivery operators in the city of Greenfield at the moment. And the idea is that there would be like a social equity process that would encourage applicants to apply for exclusive licenses for the delivery licenses. It was unanimous. Positive.
Excellent discussion. Seeing none, roll call vote.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Mastro Totoro?
Yep.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
No?
Counselor Toronzo?
Yep.
And does the president want to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes by majority.
Counselor Bullock.
Do I have to read it if I'm going to table it? I do.
Believe
Okay.
so.
FY 24-069.4A, the City Council move that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, Chapter 200, zoning, Section 34, sign regulations, subsection F, general sign regulations, paragraph 5, by adding the following language in bold. Dynamic display signs, also known as electronic message centers, shall be prohibited with the exception of municipal uses. Dynamic display signs, also known as electronic messaging centers, means any sign designed for outdoor use that is capable of displaying an
Sorry to interrupt. Actually, I discovered we can, by unanimous consent, move this to the next agenda.
Great.
So you
Can
don't
we
have
do
to-
that? Yeah, this,
Are
I
there
will.
any objections?
Yeah. Can I ask why, or is this like a non-debatable yes or no dichotomy thing?
Do I have to finish it to tell you why?
Do you have homework to do on it? or-
Can you text me? No.
I can finish it and tell you why.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Dynamic display signs, also known as electronic message centers, means any sign designed for outdoor use that is capable of displaying an electronic sign, including but not limited to cathode ray tube, CRT, light emitting diode, LED displays, plasma displays, liquid crystal displays, LCD, and other technologies used in commercially available televisions or computer monitors. Signs with this technology, which are placed by a public agency for the purpose of directing or regulating pedestrian or vehicle movement, are exempt from this chapter, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield.
So I won't.
We need a second?
Nobody
need a second.
seconded it. Nobody
I thought you
seconded
didn't
it.
want to, right?
No, we need a second so I can tell you.
I'll second it.
Excellent discussion.
I would, so this, I think it was unanimous. I'm blanking.
I voted no.
Oh, okay, there was one dissenting no.
I'm a no.
People were torn about this one. I think we voted no. my yes vote was in good faith that this was about urgent and emergent signs only. And then I came to find out after the fact that it's not about urgent and emergent signs. So I thought this was about like, if the fire department wanted to put a sign up that said, it's a drought, don't light fires, and then take it down like we've had in the past, that this was just perfecting the code to allow what we've already been doing. But it's not. So we've like done this, right? We have a couple new LED signs in town that were, I don't think, in alignment with our code. And so this would basically allow the city to just put up an LED light, like on the new library, on the new fire station, on the town common, like wherever we want an LED, whoever the mayor is at the time could just do that. And I think there was like a general vibe in the conversation that we didn't want that there needs to be some procedure to like rules around city LED, CRT, LCD signs. So saying they're within some limit, they're going to be shut off, they're going to display X, Y, and Z. So I think this needs to go back to our committee, and we need to have some conversations with the executive side and the department heads to discuss procedures like the fire chief talked about today. If we voted yes on this, it would just like blanket open up that any new building we put up or any new whim of we want a kiosk on Federal Street now, like it could just happen without there being any rule around it that is codified.
So what I'm hearing is we need to move to table.
I would move to table this.
Second.
Any discussion? Yeah.
I thought tabling was non-debatable.
Tabling's non-debatable.
Yeah, that's right. Jeez.
Come on.
Roll call vote.
Just kidding.
Everybody's tired. I'm not tired of them.
Counselor Golub.
Yes.
Counselor Gordon.
Yes.
Counselor Master
Yes.
Toro. Counselor Bullock.
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Counselor Minhas.
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts.
Yes.
Counselor Toronto.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously to table.
And the next zoning.
Okay, FY 24-069.4B. The City Council moved that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, Chapter 200, zoning, Section 34, sign regulations, subsection 1, exemptions, paragraph 3, by striking the following language and strike through. 3, no sign other than traffic control and route signs authorized by public agencies shall be placed within a public right-of-way unless a special permit has been granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals with prior written approval from, and we're striking, the Greenfield Licensing Commission and the Greenfield Department of Public Works for city-county rights-of-way and the Mass Department of Public Works for state rights-of-way, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield.
Second that.
This was a unanimous positive recommendation. It's just striking out, like, there's two, a commission, and then the Department of Public Works. And so the idea was that it would become an easier lift for a business to get like a sandwich board or something like that to put out in front of their business.
Any discussion? Seeing none, a roll call vote.
Counselor Golub.
Yes.
Counselor Gordon.
Yes.
Counselor Master Totoro.
Yes.
Counselor Bullock.
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Counselor Minhas.
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts.
Yes.
Counselor Toronto.
Yeah.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes, yes.
Y'all getting punchy. The motion passes.
Counselor Bullock.
Order number FY 24-069.5. The City Council move that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, Chapter 200, zoning, Section 21, Water Supply Protection District, WP, subsection of purpose, paragraph 1, by deleting language in strike-through and adding language in bold. 1, the general boundaries of the Water Supply Protection District, including zones, striking 1 for Roman numeral 1, striking 2 for Roman numeral 2, and striking 3 for Roman numeral 3, as shown on the official zoning map, striking dated July 29th, 2014, and as amended. The Water Supply Protection District includes the Millbrook well field and the recharge and watershed areas as determined by the hydrologic study titled Aquifer Land Acquisition Study, prepared for the City of Greenfield, Department of Public Works by Tig and Bond Incorporated of East Hampton, Mass., August 1988. The district also includes the Leary Well Site Zone 1 and the other 1/2 mile interim zone 2 required by the Department of Environmental Protection. The district also includes the Cason Well Site Zone, striking 1 for Roman numeral 1 and zone striking 2 for Roman numeral 2 recharge areas. The map, as well as the accompanying report, are incorporated herein by reference and on file with the City Clerk, Inspector of Buildings and Planning Board, and further amends Section 200-21 Water Supply Protection District WP of the zoning ordinance by replacing numbers 1, 2, and 3 relative to zones with Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3 throughout the ordinance, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further the non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the City of Greenfield.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, can you repeat that? I didn't.
I can't.
I missed the second sentence.
Yeah, this is literally just striking the numbers for numerals. There was some other numbers in this that weren't striked for numerals.
Is there a reason?
34 up from the bottom, I don't know.
I don't know why, but we covered it by saying we're replacing numbers 1, 2, and 3 relative to zones with Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3 throughout the ordinance. So I'm assuming that that can be fixed if we pass this and say we can fix it. I have no idea what this means, but it's just changing those numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, EDC recommendation.
It was a unanimous positive recommendation.
Discussion on this? Counselor Garrett?
Very briefly, this is the letter that's attached is a work of art of bureaucracy. It is just beautiful. And that's it. So we should vote yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Master Totoro?
Yep.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yep.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yep.
Counselor Toronzo?
Yes.
Counselor President Bottomley, would you like to vote? Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
So, presentations and papers, we don't have any. Do we have any reports of committees?
A&O.
There was something on A&O, but I think this was a holdover from another
Counselor sponsorship?
agenda.
No.
Oh, I think she wants to go.
It's not a holdover.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You want to go on this?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to what I was sharing earlier. In A&O, in the past, we've had people from the public bring forward things, and then not have a specific individual from A&O or another subcommittee that it may pertain to sponsor it, and so that's not like good organizing on the behalf of the public, and it kind of leaves the things that come to us in an amorphous state. So I just wanted to let everyone know that before public comment at A&O, I'm letting people who bring things forward there know that I am recommending to them that they ask a counselor to sponsor. And so if you hear people bringing forward things that they want us to vote on, to just, as good practice, recommend that they find a counselor to sponsor. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Unfinished business, I don't believe there's any old business. New business, Counselor Toronzo, first readings.
Approved transfer of $50,000 from Workers' Compensation Expenses Department 912 to Liability Insurance Expenses Department 940. Transfer $8,000 from FY24 free cash Department of Public Works budget line item parks/public land/buildings for repairs at Hillside Park. FY 2025 capital budget, 19 orders. Transfer $70,000 from FY24 free cash to purchase a 2024 Silverado 2500 HD regular cab. Transfer $40,000 from FY24 free cash for Veterans Memorial Fieldhouse boiler demo and asbestos removal. Appropriate $680,000 from authorized borrowing for engineering and design work for Main Street redesign project. Transfer $200,000 from Fund 8402 capital stabilization for the Highway Fund. Appropriate $310,000 from authorized borrowing for repairs to the Mill Street Bridge on River Street. Transfer $197,000 from Fund 8402 capital stabilization for repair design services for the electric light and power dam. Repurpose $55,956.63 from 4 accounts for repair design services for the electric light and power dam. Transfer $65,000 from Fund 8402 capital stabilization for resurfacing the Legion Avenue parking lot. Transfer $135,000 from Fund 8402 capital stabilization to purchase a 2024 F550 for replacement of truck number 28. Transfer $150,000 from Fund 8402 capital stabilization for rehabilitation of paved lot at Department of Public Works yard located at 209 Wells Street. Transfer $240,000 from Fund 8402 capital stabilization for repair of erosion in multiple areas of the capped landfill as directed by Department of Environmental Protection, DEP. Transfer $50,000 from free cash for sandblasting Posey Tower. Transfer $75,000 from Fund 8402 capital stabilization for rehabilitation and repairs of North Tower elevator at Federal Street School. Appropriate $500,000 from authorized borrowing for sewer inflow and infiltration repairs and replacement as identified in the Wright Pierce Sewer System Evaluation Survey, SSES. Transfer $195,000 from FY24 sewer retained earnings to replace backhoe number 185. Transfer $150,000 from sewer retained earnings for rehabilitation of paved lot at Department of Public Works yard located at 209 Wells Street. Transfer $300,000 from FY24 water retained earnings to replace water main on Main Street. Repurpose $124,552.78 from 4 accounts for water main replacement. Transfer $150,000 from water retained earnings for rehabilitation of paved lot at Department of Public Works yard located at 209 Wells Street.
Excellent. Motions for reconsideration, or did you have a question, Councilor Ricketts?
No, I just had something under new business first.
Oh, sorry.
No
Run
problem.
through that. I'm sorry. New business,
No,
yes.
I'll be very brief.
Sure.
I did hear you, President Bottomley, thank the clerk's office for the last election. I just want to thank them for the last few months with all the emails, you know, whether it was the resolution, the DPW, the police chief's stipend, plus everybody who has to walk in and out of the door in front of them all the time, plus the phone ringing. So please, to Madam Clerk and the rest of your staff, I appreciate everything, always, but the last few months, it has been crazy, and people have no idea, so.
I think we all echo that sentiment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Motions for reconsideration, none. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And we need to do a roll call vote for this.
No beer, no food.
I am so hungry.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Mastrotatoro?
Yes.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Counselor Gilmore? Yes. Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yep.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo?
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
No, thank you. We are adjourned at 10:23 PM.